Chapter 820. Under the speechless gazes of the audience, the black flames on Wu Yan's arms slowly dissipated, leaving only a small hand on Kaya's neck. But no one dared to underestimate this hand. Everyone here knows that other than magic, Wu Yan is also good at close combat. Feeling the warmth and coldness of the hand on his neck, Kaya's expression rapidly changed. He tightened his grip on the magic staff in his hand. In the end, he lowered his hand. Kaya smiled. His smile was rather bleak and dispirited. Jaffer, who was struggling to get up, stared blankly at this scene. A bitter smile appeared on his face. Then, as if he had completely given up, he let his body fall heavily to the ground and didn't get up again. We lost. Ka and Jaffer didn't know how to describe their current feelings. Were they unwilling? However, he had clearly used all his strength to fight, and the other party had also defeated him fair and square. What was there to be unsatisfied about? Were they sincerely convinced? But where did this unbearable pain in his heart come from? Where did it come from? Should they fight again? When they thought of this, the two of them laughed bitterly. They already gave it their all, but Wu Yan didn't even use his best fighting technique. He didn't even use his armament. It's obvious that he didn't even use his full strength. In a situation where they did not use their full strength, the two of them together could not even cause a trace of injury to him. What was the use of continuing to fight? Finally, please tell me, Ka raised his head. His dim eyes stared at the figure in front of him. How did you suddenly appear behind me? Wu Yan paused. He smiled. Why do you ask? Can't I use pure speed to suppress you? That's impossible. Ka shook his head. I placed a spell around me. I controlled the wind to fall into my senses. If you charged at me, no matter how fast you were, I would have sensed you once you entered the range of my wind. But just now, in my wind, you suddenly appeared out of nowhere. It's like you appeared out of thin air. Ka stared at Wu Yan. Can you tell me how you did it? Using the wind to sense. Wu Yan blinked and sighed. As expected of a magician who specializes in the wind element, Ka didn't say anything. He just stared at Wu Yan, waiting for his answer. He wouldn't admit defeat if he didn't know what happened. Wu Yan helplessly opened his mouth. All I did was use a space restriction magic. Spatial manipulation, magic? Wu Yan nodded. It's a spell that manipulates space. I used such a spell to teleport behind you. I moved behind you. Basically, it's just as you said. I appeared out of thin air. Spatial manipulation magic. Kaya's expression was somewhat dazed. Let alone Kaya, everyone else's expressions weren't any better. A spell that manipulates space. Doesn't that mean Wu Yan has mastered the art of teleportation? Teleportation, everyone looked at each other, and they could see the shock in the eyes of those who looked at them. There are many spells in the spalier world. If you count them carefully, you won't be able to count them all in a year. There were also spells with special effects and wonderful effects. However, a spell that manipulates space is unheard of in the spalier world. Could it be a spell that Wu Yan created himself? With such a terrifying thought popping up in their minds, no one could remain calm. This Wu Yan, who the hell is he? Staring blankly at the smiling Wu Yan, Kaya gulped. The last bit of unwillingness in his heart dissipated like smoke in a puff of smoke. The only thing left in his heart was a suffocating bitterness. A spell that manipulates space. To lose to such a mystical spell, it's no wonder. Ka smiled sadly. I've lost, Wu Yan grinned. He let go of Ka's neck and he turned towards Jaffer. Jaffer snorted. He turned his head away, but he still opened his mouth to say something. I've lost. Wu Yan laughed and shook his head when he saw Jaffer's reluctant look. He didn't seem to be in a good mood. With that, Kaya and Jaffer finally admitted defeat. The students around them reacted and shouted in unison. Wu Yan! Wu Yan! Wu Yan! Wu Yan! Era! Below the stage, Kurumi covered her mouth with her hand and smiled seductively. How Sama's popularity has increased again, that guy. Hinagiku smiled, but her eyes were gentle. He's still as low-key as ever, well. Kotori nibbled on the pearl in her hand and grinned. As the end of the curtains, it can be considered a good ending. Yay! Yay! Astria, Toka, Flanderchan, and Lulu cheered along with the crowd. Even the most cowardly Yoshino raised her hands with an excited smile. Fei Fei scanned the first floor of the arena tower. She looked at the excited crowd around her before she turned to Wu Yan. Her eyes rippled with emotions. In the end, you left behind a legend. Ka helped Jaffer up and slowly walked down the stage. When he passed by Wu Yan, he glanced at Ikaros, who didn't look away from Wu Yan. He clenched his teeth and felt pain in his heart. I hope you can give her happiness. Wu Yan flinched for a second before he smiled. You don't have to worry about that. Me, her, and the rest of them can't leave one another. Ka looked at Wu Yan with a serious expression. He closed his eyes and walked down the stage. When he was about to leave the arena, Wu Yan's voice rang in his ears. Let's fight again if there's a chance. I will be waiting for you at the front. Ka stopped abruptly. Jaffer also raised his head. The two looked at each other and smiled. They walked out of the arena under the protection of the two royals. Both of them raised their hands to signal something to Wu Yan. Wu Yan stretched his back and grinned contentedly. Perfect endings and whatnot really make people feel good. Wu Yan walked down the stage, but he quickly stopped in his tracks. When are you coming back? A cold voice rang out. Wu Yan could easily guess the owner's current expression from the voice. He couldn't help but smile and turned around. What's wrong? Could it be that your highness misses me? Sylph was silent for a moment. She nodded to Wu Yan's surprise. You are my fiancé. It's just one sentence, but it's surprisingly powerful. Wu Yan bitterly laughed. I don't think there's a chance for me to come back. However, it shouldn't be hard for you to track my whereabouts. If you miss me, come find me. Sylph glanced at Wu Yan and nodded calmly. It's a deal then. After that, Sylph turned around and left without looking back. Wu Yan's mouth twitched, he felt helpless. He really didn't know which part of this ice princess's words was true and which part was false. It felt more like she was joking with him. Are you ready? Outside the Spalier World Academy, Wu Yan looked at the girls. When they nodded, he waved his hand and summoned Fraxinus. Take care. Fei Fei shouted as she looked at the huge airship. You must miss me. Lulu waved her hands. She didn't cry this time. Her expression was firm. She seemed to have matured a lot after this parting. They stood in the command center of Fraxinus and looked at the Spalier World Academy on the screen. They memorized its appearance. The airship slowly flew into the distance. Chapter 821. Behemoth Forest. The current Behemoth Forest is very different from before. It's not that its shape has changed or the terrain has changed. It's just that no one dared to treat the Behemoth Forest as a hunting ground anymore. The incident with the Behemoth King has come to an end. There have been no more demonic beast attacks. However, the Behemoth King is still alive. He was injured by Yukari and is currently hiding in a corner, licking his wounds. Once he recovers, another wave of demonic beast attacks will come. No one knows where the Behemoth King is hiding, but one thing is for sure, he is still in the Behemoth Forest. Even though they know the Behemoth King is in the Behemoth Forest, no one knows what to do. Search. The Behemoth Forest is larger than a single empire. Add to that the complex terrain and tens of thousands of demonic beasts, who would dare to search for the Behemoth King? What about a secret search? It's not that it's impossible, but the number of people needed to search for the Behemoth King is limited. It's going to take a lot of luck to find the Behemoth King. What was certain was that the giant beast's forest wasn't suitable for other people to go in and hunt. After the Behemoth King went into hiding, the Ailu Empire, Baruba Empire, and Fea Empire set up a camp between their supply towns and the behemoth forest. With the combined strength of the three great clans, they set up a powerful garrison. The three camps have a mission. Other than preventing demonic beast attacks from happening again, they also have to monitor the behemoth forest, search for the behemoth king's tracks, hunt demonic beasts for the empire's needs, and so on. They also have to guard the path to the behemoth forest and prevent outsiders from entering. Because of this, the Spalier world is facing a serious challenge. The behemoth forest is a natural treasure trove. Humans can't live without the resources inside. Now that the resources are under control, it's easy to imagine how big of an impact it will bring. Fortunately, the camp had also been organized, allowing some teams to enter the behemoth forest every day to hunt and provide resources. Otherwise, the entire Spalier world would be in chaos. However, it was undeniable that hunting in the behemoth forest was no longer as easy as it used to be. The responsibilities of the three camps within the borders of the three empires were extremely heavy. Before the Beast King was taken care of, the three camps had to continue to exist in order to ensure the normal operation of the Spalier world. Therefore, the moment the three camps were established, they instantly became second only to the three great clans in the various empires, or even above them. With status. Naturally, power was indispensable, and with power, disputes were inevitable. The various forces seemed to have realized the great significance of the camp and realized its importance. Although they didn't know how long this camp could exist, they would definitely bring a lot of benefits if they had a stable position here. In addition, the camp was the base that controlled all the resources that flowed out of the behemoth forest. The benefits were unimaginable. Every faction started to get restless. For the sake of fighting for benefits, the people who belonged to the various factions and were stationed here gradually began to have conflicts. Right now, Mikoto, Shokuhu Misaki, and the others were also in conflict. They were caught in a conflict. In the center of the camp, Mikoto, Shokuhu Misaki, Kinohada Sayai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku were standing in front of a group of Misaka sisters. However, they didn't seem to be in a good mood. In front of them, there was a large team led by three middle-aged men. In terms of numbers, this team was no less than the 20,000 Misaka sisters. In terms of strength, the Misaka sisters were all at the pinnacle of Tier 6. On the other hand, the other party's strength was uneven. There were Tier 5, Tier 6, and of course, Tier 7. The three middle-aged men in the lead were even Tier 8. There were many other people surrounding the two opposing teams. They were all sent by other factions to guard the camp. Mikoto's team should have come out by now. They were from the three great families of Ailu Empire, the Lori family, the Saito family, and the Ledin family. Perhaps Shokuhu Misaki was annoyed by this, so she ran her fingers through her long hair. Her elegant posture made many young men widen their eyes, and they couldn't help but feel a sense of possessiveness. What do you want? Shokuhu Misaki glanced at the three middle-aged men. Blocking people in the middle of the road, is this how the three great families treat outsiders? You know very well what we want, there's no need to show off. Towards Shokuhu Misaki's graceful posture, the three middle-aged men were stunned for a moment, but they weren't as bad as the young men. One of them stepped forward and sneered coldly at Shokuhu Misaki. There are some things that we should be clear about so that we can get along in the future. Get along? Shokuhu Misaki couldn't help but laugh mockingly. Are you all standing in front of us in such a manner because you want to get along with us? Shokuhu-san, you should know that we have no other choice. The one who spoke was another middle-aged man. He looked the most weathered out of the three. He sighed and said helplessly to Shokuhu Misaki. Your Misaka Legion is one of the strongest in the entire camp, but you guys refuse to listen to our orders. This is making things difficult for us. Why do we have to obey your orders? Mikoto clenched her fists, her brown eyes were filled with hostility. We are not from the Empire nor do we belong to any family. We have no obligation to listen to your orders. Mikoto said loudly. Since you are here, you have to listen to our orders. The man with the gloomy face shouted back. Our camp is responsible for maintaining the operations of the entire world. Our responsibilities are heavy. Everyone here is working for the Empire's benefit. You are the only ones who act alone. Not only do you not listen to our orders, you don't even hand over the resources you hunt. You are blaspheming this sacred camp. That's right. This is the beginning of the conflict. Due to the importance of this camp, many families have extended their hands into this territory in an attempt to gain some benefits. Among them, the most important ones are the members of the three great families. The resources obtained from the behemoth forest are used to maintain the Empire's operations, but there are still some left over. Who wouldn't want to gain more? With this thought in mind, the hunting teams that entered the giant beast's forest would exceed their quota every day. Moreover, they would swallow the extra resources and transport them back to their families. In addition, there would also be some leftover resources that would be handed over to the giant beast's forest. These leftover resources would become a delicious cake that countless people would want to take a bite out of. The three great clans were the strongest in Ailu Empire. Naturally, they got the most share of the spoils. But now, there is a large hunting party that is comparable to the three great families hunting in the behemoth forest every day. Not only did they get more resources than any other family, but because they aren't affiliated with the Empire, they have no obligation to hand over the loot. They can take it all for themselves. Who wouldn't want such a delicious piece of meat? Thus, the three great families joined forces and came here. They wanted to use the Empire as pawns to force Mikoto and Shokuhu Misaki to submit. Chapter 822. As the saying goes, a person's jealousy is a scary thing. She had to work herself to death and fight every day to earn resources that she had to hand over to the Empire to support the Empire's operations. Yet, other people were allowed to keep her gains for themselves. This unfair treatment caused the onlookers to look at Mikoto, Shokuhu Misaki, and the others with unkind eyes. Just a second ago, they were mesmerized by Mikoto's beauty, but now, because of their jealousy, they forgot that she was just a weak and delicate woman and started to hate her. One has to admit that the dark side of human nature is extremely ugly. Shokuhu Misaki's ability is psychological control. Her ability is able to control both the mind and the mind. In the Spalier world, due to the difference in level, she can only affect people of the same level. However, Shokuhu Misaki is already a Tier 8 combatant. There are not many people who are stronger than her. Shokuhu Misaki could clearly feel the negative emotions from the crowd. Her beautiful lips curled upwards. She looked beautiful, but upon closer inspection, one could see the disdain in her eyes. You bastard. Mikoto's bangs slowly floated upwards, as traces of blue and white electricity flowed through them. Amidst the crackling sounds, a formless aura burst forth from Mikoto's petite frame. That was the expression of Mikoto's wrath. What? You want to use your strength to speak? The gloomy man laughed coldly. Do-chi surged out from his body and clashed with Mikoto's aura in an instant. The two auras clashed and they were actually evenly matched. Mikoto had already reached the peak of Tier 8. She was just one step away from reaching Tier 9. Under such circumstances, even though the gloomy man's aura was on par with Mikoto's, it was clear that his true strength was not much weaker than Mikoto's. In order to play the role of the leader in this important camp, the three leaders of the Spalier world had to be careful. The leaders of the three major clans were only second to the leaders of their respective clans. In terms of strength, they were on par with the leaders of the three major clans. Forget about the gloomy man, even the weathered man who had been silent the whole time. The blonde man with the same color hair as Shokuhu Misaki was also a peak Tier 8 fighter. On Mikoto's side, she was the only one who was at the peak of Type 8. Shokuhu Misaki, Kinohada Sayai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku were still quite a distance away from that. Even with the support of 20,000 Misaka sisters, they were still slightly weaker. Of course, this was only in terms of strength. Shokuhu Misaki had never needed to resort to violence. Era, Misaka-san, don't get angry. Shokuhu Misaki. I've been waiting for you to get angry. Marcus, retract your do-chi as well. The blonde man, who had been silent all this time, raised his head and coldly glanced at the gloomy man he called Marcus. "I didn't come here to watch you fight." Marcus snorted coldly and glanced at the blonde man with a mocking look. "Pelosi, I know your Lori family has a good relationship with them, but let me warn you first. You don't want to be the bad guy. Stand aside obediently. No one will blame you for not interfering, but if you want to protect them, you'll have to ask the brothers around you if they're willing," Pelosi said. Pelosi's eyes flashed with anger. This Marcus is using a chicken feather as a token of authority and he's getting addicted to it? Oh. You're saying our Lori family wants to protect them because we have a good relationship with them? Aren't you trying to make things difficult for them because your Saito family has a bad relationship with them? Pelosi laughed. "I know that your Saito family's patriarch, who is your elder brother, ordered us to suppress this group of bastards who humiliated his 2 sons and your nephews." "Oh? Oh no, I almost forgot." Pelosi seemed to have recalled something as he said with a mocking expression in a sudden realization. "That second young master Bing Mian, it seems like he almost died under his own ice do chi." Pelosi, Marcus roared in anger. The Saito family's ice combat chi erupted from his body. It was even stronger than when he confronted Makoto. Pelosi didn't say anything about it. He just looked at him coldly as if he was looking at a clown. "Stop." The weathered man hurriedly stepped forward, only to be glared at by Marcus, who was burning with rage. "What? Andrew, is your Ladine family going to side with him?" Hearing Marcus's angry shout, Andrew frowned. He seemed to be dissatisfied with Marcus's actions. "Internal strife? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at? Don't forget what we're here for." Pelosi and Marcus were both startled. They then looked at each other, narrowed their eyes, and turned their heads away. However, Marcus still restrained his chi. It seemed that he had taken Andrew's words to heart. Pelosi looked at Makoto and the others. He hesitated for a moment but decided to stand up. "Ms. Shokuha, as you know, with the current situation of the camp, a lot of people are dissatisfied with you. There are also a lot of people who want to use this as a pretext to make a fuss." Pelosi intentionally or unintentionally glanced at the angry crowd and smiled bitterly. "Everyone is unhappy with the fact that you don't hand over your resources. So, don't you think it's a good idea to fulfill your obligations once in a while?" Shokuha Misaki tilted her head and shook her head. "Mr. Pelosi, may I ask what the obligations of the camp are?" Pelosi paused. Shokuha Misaki looked around and continued. "This camp was built to prevent the demonic beasts from coming out of the behemoth forest and to search for the demonic beast king. This is the real obligation. Hunting demonic beasts and obtaining resources is just a side benefit." Shokuha Misaki's lips curled into a smile. She slowly walked in front of Marcus. Marcus looked at her coldly. Indeed, everyone in this camp hunts demonic beasts in the behemoth forest every day. They exchange their lives for resources and hand it over to the Empire to maintain the Empire's normal operations. I admire your sense of responsibility. Shokuha Misaki looked at Marcus with a half-smile. "But since Mr. Marcus says we have blasphemed this sacred encampment, then Mr. Marcus, can you say that everything you've done is for the sake of the Ailu Empire?" Marcus' pupils constricted and he sneered. "Of course Mr. Marcus, please don't speak too quickly." Shokuha Misaki interrupted Marcus with a smile, but her eyes flashed with a cold glint. "I will do as you say. Don't forget, my ability is to control people's minds." Shokuha Misaki rested her chin on her hand and said with a smile. "Although I can't control the few of you, I believe that the people around you who work for you shouldn't be able to resist my ability. I think, in that kind of situation, they would be very willing to publicize your usual actions to everyone. When the time comes, it will be time for the world to evaluate your obligations." The expressions of Pelosi, Marcus, and Andrew changed on the spot. Shokuha Misaki glanced at them, turned around and walked to Makoto's side. "Gentlemen, we all have our own goals. We are not in charge of you, so it's best if you don't stick your nose in our business. Otherwise, the ones who will suffer." Shokuha Misaki smiled. "Definitely not us." Chapter 823. Damn it. I'm so pissed off. Kinohada Sai kicked a rock aside and glared at Shokuhu Misaki. I say, why don't you just let me take care of that guy? But don't you dare do anything stupid. Frenda was shocked. That guy is a tier 8 pinnacle, you won't be able to win if you fight him. Who says I can't kill him just because my level is lower than his? Kinohada Sai retorted. It's not like I haven't killed someone stronger than me when I was in the Black Ops. If I can't kill him in a direct confrontation, I'll just super assassinate him. Frenda couldn't stay calm anymore, she clutched her beret nervously. You're not really planning to do that, right? Alright. Mikoto sighed. That guy is annoying, but it's not to the point where I have to kill him, ah? Kinohada Sai looked at Mikoto in disbelief and sighed as well. You're still as kind as ever. This has nothing to do with being kind or not, right? That's not it. Most people would only want to kill that guy if they saw him. Would a normal person directly kill the person they hate? Of course I'm super good at it. Yeah. Seeing Mikoto and Kinohada Sai quarreling for no reason, Frenda felt like she was looking at two kids who never grew up. She completely forgot that she was the one with the smallest stature in the room. She then turned to Shokuhu Misaki. Luckily Shokuhu was here, otherwise we would have to fight them. I made the right decision when I asked you to stay. Well, in a base like this, it's only a matter of time before something like this happens. Shokuhu Misaki tucked her hair behind her ear. She narrowed her eyes. I just didn't expect it to happen so soon. Mikoto and Kinohada Sai seemed to be tired of arguing. They glared at each other and turned their heads away. Mikoto happened to be on Shokuhu Misaki's side. Hearing this, she put one hand on her waist. We should have completely fallen out with them now, right? I don't think so. Kinohada Sai extended her hand. He clenched his fist, and on top of it, there was a mass of air that was invisible to the naked eye that was constantly compressing and rotating. At least with Shokuhu here, those guys won't be able to do anything to us, although I'm not afraid, they won't give up. Shokuhu Misaki said calmly, as long as we are here, they will not give up. After all, the Misaka sisters are very efficient at hunting. They won't let go of the chance to get their hands on these 20,000 men. Shokuhu Misaki was smart enough to know that Marcus's real target wasn't the loot in their hands, but the entire Misaka sisters squad. Even though they had accumulated quite a lot of resources during this period of hunting, it was only a small amount. What Marcus and the rest really wanted was a Misaka army that did not have to carry out their so-called obligations and could hunt efficiently. Otherwise, Marcus's first sentence after blocking them in the open space wouldn't be to ask them to submit their resources. From this point of view, Pelosi from the Lori family gave them a good way out. He didn't let them follow his orders, instead, he let them carry out their duties. It seems like he cared about the relationship between them and the Lori family. Then what should we do next? Mikoto said irritatedly, the longer we don't submit our resources, the more dissatisfied the people in the base will be with us. I'm afraid we'll get into a lot of unnecessary trouble. Of course there will be trouble. Shokuhu Misaki pursed her lips and said bitterly, it's because we've been hunting monsters for that bastard. Those resources should be able to give him a lot of points. Mikoto, Kinohada Sai, and Frenda stopped in their tracks. Even Takitsubu Riku, who looked like she was about to fall asleep, lifted her head. Obviously, the bastard that Shokuhu Misaki mentioned just now was the one she was talking about. Their mental state was shaken. The footsteps of the 5 girls were no longer as normal as before. Instead, they were somewhat slow. Although the expression on their faces was still as thoughtful as before, this time, they were no longer thinking about the matters in the camp. Instead, they were thinking about the detestable fellow they spoke of. Hey, that bastard seems to have returned. Mikoto pretended to be nonchalant and asked casually. Shokuhu Misaki couldn't help but snicker. Misaka-san, you should know better than I do, right? Every time I talk to Chuju and the others, they always ask about you. I was just doing it in passing, in passing. Mikoto's voice got softer and softer as her face got redder and redder, attracting the giggling gazes of Kinohara Sai and Frenda. Just like that bastard said, Misaka-san is at Tsundere. And now he's Tsundere. He's Tsundere. Don't talk about Tsundere all the time. Mikoto yelled in exasperation. I'm not Tsundere. Takitsubo Riku glanced at the three girls and gave up on asking. She walked up to Shokuhu Misaki and asked in a soft voice, is he in the academy now? Shokuhu Misaki shook her head helplessly and looked up at the sky. 2 days ago, when I contacted Hinajuku, I heard that he seemed to have obtained a new ability and is currently cultivating it. He should be almost done with it by now. The next time I contact him, I should be able to see his face through the crystal ball. Mikoto and the other girls' eyes lit up and they couldn't help but smile. Shokuhu Misaki calmly ran her fingers through her hair. This is a good opportunity to hear from him about the princess fiancé incident. The air instantly froze, and the temperature suddenly dropped. The expressions of the girls also turned cold. The Misaka girl who was closest to the girls raised her head and said, according to Misaka's observation, Oni-sama seems to have cheated on her again. Misaka 10032 came to the conclusion. Oni-sama is a heartless man. Misaka 10031 came to the conclusion as well. Misaka 9982 seconded. Misaka 10777 seconded. Misaka 19090 seconded. In the end, all of the Misaka sisters agreed to the proposal, hearing the girls whispering behind them. Mikoto, Shokuhu Misaki, Kinohara Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubo Riku looked at each other and couldn't help but burst out laughing. However, it didn't take long before Mikoto and Takitsubo Riku's laughter came to an abrupt halt. The laughter on their faces slowly turned into surprise. This feeling is, Mikoto's forehead flashed with electricity. Takitsubo Riku's pupils constricted and she started trembling. What's wrong? Shokuhu Misaki, Kinohara Sai, and Frenda surrounded the two girls. Did something happen? Well, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Mikoto couldn't stop smiling. Before Shokuhu Misaki and the others could ask, she raised her head and looked at the sky. It's here. Almost at the same time as Mikoto's words, a gigantic airship slowly appeared in the sky, accompanied by a whistling whirlwind. It stopped right above the girls. That's Fraxinus. Shokuhu Misaki's expression changed drastically, then a helpless smile appeared on her face. I didn't expect it to come without a word. That guy is here. Kinohara Sai and Frenda exclaimed and they started laughing excitedly. Chapter 824. Looking at the figures appearing in the teleportation light, Mikoto and the rest could not help but feel excited. Even Shokuhu Misaki had a look of joy in her eyes. From the time Wu Yen brought Chuju and the others out of the behemoth forest to when Yukari returned to Gensokyo, to when Wu Yen completed the compulsory mission, it was about 2 weeks in the Spalier world. That's about 10 days. Although they hadn't seen each other for more than 10 days, Mikoto and the others felt as if a long time had passed. Even though they kept in touch with each other every day, they were still excited to see each other in person. Especially the figure standing at the head of the table, it attracted the gazes of the 5 of them. They couldn't move their eyes away. If Mikoto and the others were like that, then why wouldn't Chuju and the others be like that as well? Frenda Ne-san. Flandre-chan was the first one to cheer. She threw herself at the petite figure whose name is only one character away from hers. She almost pushed Frenda to the ground. Wah! Don't jump into my arms. Frenda said that, but she still reached out and hugged Flandre-chan. Her blue eyes were filled with love and helplessness. She believed that no one would hate Flandre-chan, except for those who are afraid of her strength. Mikoto. Chuju. Shokuhu Ne-san. Everyone. The girls hugged each other and enjoyed the joy of reunion even though they were just summoned. Kotori, Toka, and Yoshino, who didn't know each other for long, also did the same. The small space was filled with laughter. It seems that while Wu Yan wasn't around, they were separated from each other, but their relationship seemed to be developing well. Of course, there are exceptions. Tokozaki-san, long time no see. Shokuhu Misaki covered her mouth and smiled at Kurumi. Seeing that you're doing well, Shokuhu is relieved. I was worried that you wouldn't be comfortable in the academy. I'm the one who's fine. Kurumi tilted her head cutely. Her eyes turned into crescents. It's great that Shokuhu-san is so energetic. Just from their conversation alone, the two of them were like aristocratic relatives who had not seen each other for a long time. They were elegantly greeting each other, but the air around the two of them emitted a chill that was enough to penetrate one's heart, causing the delicate bodies of the young girls to tremble. With a leap, he distanced himself from them. Just like when they met for the first time, these two young ladies who thought of each other as strong rivals immediately became hostile towards each other. Wu Yan, who was watching from the side, felt extremely conflicted. You bastard, you finally showed up. It was unknown when Mikoto and Chuju had arrived beside Wu Yan, hand in hand. Her pair of tea-colored eyes were filled with serious dissatisfaction. Not counting the time when he was carrying out compulsory missions. However, it had been a few days since Wu Yan returned to the Spalier world from the Instance dungeon. In the end, he hadn't contacted them even once. Of course, Mikoto would be dissatisfied. However, the prideful Mikoto wouldn't say it out loud. Sorry. Wu Yan tactfully admitted his mistake. He clasped his hands and made an apologetic gesture. It's because too many things have happened in the past 2 days, I can't sort them all out. Shokuhu Misaki, who was in the middle of a confrontation with Kurumi, turned around and walked to Wu Yan's side. She also heard from Chuju about their encounter in the Imperial Palace, but she only got the gist of it. Using a crystal ball to communicate, even though it's not like Academy City or the modern world, it's still possible to be monitored. That's why Chuju couldn't tell them the secret Wu Yan obtained in the Imperial Palace. She only gave them a vague explanation to let Shokuhu Misaki and the others know the severity of the situation. What's wrong? Is it hard to solve? Wu Yan sighed when he heard this. It's not a problem, it's a problem of how to deal with it. Wu Yan shook his head when he saw Shokuhu Misaki's puzzled expression. Let's talk about the details later. Shokuhu Misaki nodded, and her serious face changed into a half-smile. Since it's not convenient to talk about it here, Yen-chan, don't you think you should explain your private matters to us? For example, your engagement with a certain princess, or... You're such a playboy. Which pretty bee did you piss off in this dungeon? When Shokuhu Misaki said that, Wu Yan knew he was in trouble. As expected, as soon as she said that, several cold gazes and 20,000 disdainful gazes landed on him. Wu Yan's back was drenched in sweat. Feeling the pressure, Wu Yan stiffened and looked at Shokuhu Misaki, who was still smiling. He tried to speak weakly. Jisama, I don't think it's appropriate to talk about private matters here, is that so? Shokuhu Misaki smiled seductively. She reached out and stroked Wu Yan's chest. She then moved her lips closer to Wu Yan's ear. Then, let's talk about it in private. Dear love, gulp. Hearing Shokuhu Misaki's seductive voice, Wu Yan felt a chill down his spine. He gulped and the girls around him snickered at him. Wu Yan could only sigh in despair. It seems like he'll have a lot of work to do in the coming days if he wants to appease these jealous girls. How nice would it be if pushing her down could comfort the girl? Behemoth Forest Camp, inside a large tent. What? You guys graduated? Mikoto exclaimed. Yeah. Chuju smiled at Mikoto. Apparently, staying at Spalier World Academy no longer has much meaning for us, so we applied to graduate. Then why didn't you guys tell us? Kinohata Sai, who was sitting on the other side of Mikoto, was dissatisfied. Don't tell me you don't plan to care about us anymore? Haha, it's just that we didn't have time to inform you. Chuju smiled bitterly. After all, we almost couldn't get out, isn't that a pity? Shokuhu Misaki looked at Kurumi with raised eyebrows. You just entered the academy and you're applying to graduate? You must be tired, Era, I don't mind. Kurumi placed a finger on her lips and said to herself. As long as Aotsusama is here, it's fine. On the other hand, Shokuhu-san, I heard you spent a lot of effort to raise Starlight Queen. How can you just abandon her like that? Don't worry about it, it's fine. Shokuhu Misaki waved her hand. Sometimes, power is more practical than people. All you need to do is say a word or two. Tokazaki-san, you don't have to worry too much, that's a pity. Kurumi and Shokuhu Misaki looked at each other. Both of them had a noble smile on their faces. However, the way they looked at each other made the onlookers feel dizzy. They couldn't wait to teach these two girls a lesson. Wu Yan slapped his forehead and looked at Shokuhu Misaki helplessly. The academy isn't a big problem since you're just students in name. Whenever you get in touch with Grandpa Lei, he'll just let you graduate. Wu Yan turned serious after he said that. Masaki-san, what do you think I should do with the information I got from the Ailu Empire's treasury? You don't have to do anything with that information. Wu Yan, Hinajuku, and the others were baffled by Shokuhu Misaki's words. She didn't even hesitate to call them worthless. Everyone was stunned. Shokuhu Misaki blinked and smiled as she looked at the stunned crowd. They have already arranged a way to deal with it. What are we still worried about? Hearing Shokuhu Misaki's words, everyone looked at each other and laughed. As expected of Shokuhu Misaki, she hit the nail on the head. Chapter 825. The giant beast forest camp was a camp filled with tents. The people stationed here would be assigned different sizes of tents according to their status. Among them, there were 3 tents that were the largest in the entire camp. When Wu Yan and Ko arrived at the campsite, they saw Marcus and Andrew in the largest tent at the center of the campsite. The only one missing is Pelosi. You said Wu Yan also came to the camp? Marcus furrowed his brows tightly when he heard the news brought by Andrew. Is this news accurate? It's 100% true. Andrew nodded and gritted his teeth. His airship is special and it can conceal itself. It's impossible for anyone to mistake it for someone else. I didn't expect this. He actually came at this juncture. Marcus' face was gloomy, his fists were clenched tightly. Andrew couldn't help but say when he saw Marcus' expression. Will there be any problems? Andrew asked worriedly. Wu Yan's sudden appearance, will he discover our secret? Andrew asked. Marcus' complexion changed, and his face became ferocious. Damn it, why did he have to come at this time? Andrew's face was also filled with uncertainty. He hesitated on the spot for a long time before he suddenly raised his head. His originally handsome face was now filled with murderous intent. Let's do it. Let's just. Although he didn't finish his sentence, the meaning he wanted to express was very clear. No. But Marcus shook his head without even thinking about it. That Wu Yan may be young, but he's someone that even Lei Wang, that old geezer, thinks highly of. He's not that simple, you know that. He's now Princess Sylph's fiancé. If we do that and drag the royal family into this, we'll be dead. But with him here, we can't carry out the plan at all. Andrew's face was filled with fear as he said this. You know, if we can't complete the mission. The consequences. Upon hearing Andrew's words, Marcus' ferocious face became fearful as if he had seen something terrifying. He shook his head in panic. No. We have to carry out the plan. Otherwise, we'll suffer a fate worse than death. Then what should we do? Andrew was starting to get irritated. We can't kill him and we can't leave either. Are we going to waste our time like this? Didn't I tell you? Stick to the plan. Marcus growled. That Wu Yan may be strong, but he's just a small fry. Misaka Mikoto isn't any weaker than him, and yet she failed to discover our plan. That cunning Shokuhu Misaki was also kept in the dark. I don't believe he can discover anything. That's true. Andrew's expression seemed to have improved a little. A glimmer of hope appeared in his eyes. That's right, he's just a small fry. No matter how strong he is, we should be fine as long as we're careful. Let's hope nothing bad happens. Marcus sighed. I hope so. Marcus replied in a low voice. Glancing at Marcus, he hesitantly called out, Marcus, Looking at his accomplice beside him, the malevolent look on Marcus' face slowly receded. Instead of the previous malevolence, he smiled bitterly. Andrew, if you have something to say, just say it. Although I'm from the Saito family and you're from the Ladin family, we're in the same boat now. If we don't live together, we'll die together. Is there anything that you can't say? Andrew took a deep breath and bit his lips. Marcus, what we're doing right now is equivalent to betraying the Ailu Empire. We're betraying all of humanity. If we're discovered, there won't be a place for us in Silveria. Is it really worth it? What's the point of saying this now? Marcus's face was filled with dejection. His eyes dimmed. Now, it's either someone else's death or ours. Do you want to die? You. Andrew was silent, a trace of sadness appeared in his eyes. Seeing this, Marcus laughed at himself, then his face turned fierce and he stood up abruptly. There is no turning back. I don't want to die. If I can't die, then I can only make others die. I believe that the spirits of those ants in the heavens know that using their lowly lives in exchange for the survival of 2 peak-stage 8th order powerhouses is enough for them to feel honored. Too bad we couldn't drag Pelosi down with us. Otherwise, with the 3 of us in the camp, we wouldn't have to cower around like cowards. Marcus grumbled. And that Shokuhu Misaki, she's as cunning as a fox. If it wasn't for her bringing a bunch of wild brats around the camp, that's why we forced Pelosi to come with us. We wanted to control them, right? Andrew said helplessly. If Shokuhu Misaki heard this, she would be shocked. After all, she always thought that Marcus and the others wanted to control them because of their hunting ability. Alright, you don't have to worry too much. Marcus waved his hand and looked at the ceiling of the tent. He muttered to himself. We only need to do this for ourselves. Right, for ourselves. Sigh. Andrew sighed and looked at Marcus. Then, let's continue with the plan. Amicham. Marcus nodded, then pondered for a moment and added. Just in case, let's keep a low profile. Keep an eye on Wu Yan and Shokuhu Misaki. We can't let them notice anything. I know that even if you don't tell me. Andrew smiled bitterly. He continued worriedly. I just hope they haven't noticed what's happening in the camp. Otherwise, things will get troublesome. Don't worry about it. Marcus smiled coldly. It hasn't been long since this incident happened. At present, only some low-level garrison personnel are panicking. Even if they report this matter, we will be the ones to deal with it in the end. At most, we will report it to Pelosi. But he himself doesn't know the inside story, so he can't pose any threat. This is the only advantage they have over Mikoto's group. They have exclusive access to information. That way, the chances of them being exposed are much lower. Andrew nodded with a heavy expression. But with the addition of Wu Yan and his women, their group is much stronger than ours. If only we could place some spies around them. You think I haven't thought about it? Marcus glanced at Andrew. But those women who look exactly the same are on high alert. They seem to have some way of communicating with each other. The spies I planted around their tents were all removed in one night. On top of that, Shokuhu Misaki, the Academy Queen, isn't a simple character either. She might be young, but she's smart and meticulous. She doesn't have a single flaw in her plans, and she has that kind of ability that's hard to deal with. Marcus, why don't we find a chance to kill that Shokuhu Misaki? Andrew narrowed his eyes without any hesitation. I have a feeling that Shokuhu Misaki will be a disaster if we let her live. Marcus seemed to be tempted. But, Shokuhu Misaki is Wu Yan's mistress, they are very close. If we kill Shokuhu Misaki, we might anger Wu Yan, but what if that demigod called Yakumo Yukari gets involved, demigod expert? Andrew felt a chill run down his spine as he spoke unwillingly. Why would a demigod expert be related to a bunch of Type 8 powerhouses? Who knows? Marcus took a deep breath and a haze flashed across his brows. Even if they don't have a demigod, they still have 2 other Tier 8 characters. We can't fight them. I just hope they don't get in our way. If we have no other choice, we'll have to resort to underhanded methods to make sure no one finds out we're the ones who did it. Andrew nodded heavily. Chapter 8:26. While Marcus and Andrew were vexed, Wuyan was also vexed. He wanted to bring Mikoto, Shokuhu Misaki, Kinohada Sayai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku with him when he arrived at the Behemoth Forest Camp. However, when he arrived at the Behemoth Forest Camp, Wuyan discovered a serious problem. What about the sisters? The Beast King is still hiding in the Behemoth Forest and the mutated monsters haven't been completely eradicated. The entire Behemoth Forest is like a ticking time bomb that could explode at any moment. If he brings all the girls with him and leaves this place, the sisters' safety could be threatened at any moment. Under such circumstances, Wuyan can't bring all the girls with him. Conservatively speaking, he'll have to leave them behind for a while unless all the sisters reach Tier 7 or 8. Otherwise, they won't be able to leave this place without worry. Forget about Wuyan, Mikoto won't leave her 20,000 sisters behind. Maintain the status quo. However, Wuyan's group has already left the Spalier World Academy. They'll have to travel across the entire Spalier world. If they maintain the status quo, he'll have to be separated from the girls and won't be able to see them for a while. Wuyan spent more than 3 years in the Sword and Blade MT world. That's quite a long time to be away from the girls. However, that's only if the time here is shorter. Wuyan can endure being away from the girls for 3 years, but that doesn't mean the girls can do the same. They'll stay by his side without any complaints. They'll go through thick and thin with him, their lives are intertwined with his. It's fine when he entered this world since the time here is shorter compared to the Spalier world. He can't bear to let the girls experience the pain of being separated from him. Maybe he can bring 20,000 sisters with him? But that's 20,000 people, it's not a war. How can he bring an army like that around the Spalier world? Could it be that he would place his sisters in the biological containment device like before? This was also a good idea. Only if it was possible. Wuyan really didn't want to do that. His sisters were finally able to live a normal life in the Spalier world. If he placed them in the biocontainment device, how would he be any different from Alistair? Of course, using his brain had always been Wuyan's weakness. It's not that he's an idiot, it's just that by the time he comes up with a solution, Shokuhu Misaki would already be sitting on the sofa drinking tea. Therefore, Wuyan could only entrust this troublesome problem to Her Majesty the Queen. This caused Her Majesty the Queen to be in a bad mood for a while, and she said, "Give me some time." After that, Her Majesty the Queen walked out of Wuyan's tent and went somewhere unknown. Wuyan couldn't leave the Behemoth Forest camp for the time being, so he didn't dwell on it. He spent his days either fooling around with the girls or running the Behemoth Forest instance dungeon, hunting, with his sisters. Whenever he had free time, he would cultivate his mana. His days were quite comfortable. Wuyan originally thought that a lazy person like him wouldn't be interested in cultivation, but he was actually a little addicted to it. Although cultivating mana can be boring, Wuyan could feel himself getting stronger every day. His mana was also increasing, giving him an indescribable sense of fullness. With these two factors added together, even though it's not to the extent where he's so focused on training that he forgets to eat and sleep, it's still enough for him to spend his free time on training his mana. He's not that hardworking, but he's definitely not lazy. Such a result also gave others the impression that Wuyan, a super genius who graduated from the Spalier World Academy, was a hardworking person. This caused many people to change their view of Wuyan. Some of them even faintly began to look forward to him. This caused Wuyan to blush with shame and caused the girls to despise him. Only the girls knew that Wuyan usually cultivated during the day, and only when he had free time would he cultivate. As for the time at night, it was naturally his happiest time of the day. Because at this time, Wu Yan can just grab one or two of the girls who are about to go to sleep. Then, amidst their screams, he can drag them into his tent and toss them onto his bed like a hoodlum boss. Then, he can live a shameless life under the night sky, say that Wu Yan is hardworking. He's probably the happiest person in the entire behemoth forest camp. Just like that, a month passed in the blink of an eye. Shokuhu Misaki was sitting inside a tent, drinking black tea while tidying up her beautiful blonde hair. Beside her, Kinuhata Sayai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku were counting the spoils of war that their sisters hunted in the behemoth forest. After spending quite a bit of time together, the three girls who came from Academy City's Umbu got along quite well with Shokuhu Misaki. Normally, if one could see Shokuhu Misaki, one would be able to see the three girls behind her, and their relationship seemed to be quite good. He didn't know how Shokuhu Misaki did it, but Kinuhata Sayai and the other girls seemed to be treating her like a second Mujino Shizuri. They only followed Shokuhu Misaki's orders. Even if Mikoto, Hinajuku, and the others came looking for them, Wu Yan didn't use the word order to get them to do anything. Just like now, Kinuhata Sayai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku were not only counting the spoils of war they hunted today, they were also organizing the information that their sisters gathered from the camp. There was one thing that Marcus guessed correctly: the sisters have a way to communicate with each other, the Misaka network. But what he didn't know is that strictly speaking, the Misaka network isn't a way for the sisters to communicate with each other. That's because the Misaka network exists to connect the sisters' minds and allow them to share information. Marcus thought that their camp's information wouldn't be leaked to the Misaka core, but reality slapped him hard in the face. With the Misaka network, the sisters' strength is to gather information. In the camp, some information that even Marcus didn't know about would be sent to Shokuhu Misaki every day. Even though Mikoto wasn't happy that her sisters were helping Shokuhu Misaki was very responsible and took care of her sisters well. She even used them for her own benefit, and the one who benefited was Wu Yan. Mikoto couldn't say anything about it and turned a blind eye to it. She had to admit that Shokuhu Misaki was a qualified leader. Because of this, Shokuhu Misaki got herself into a lot of trouble. Takitsubu Riku, who was reading a piece of information, suddenly exclaimed. She turned around and handed a piece of paper to Shokuhu Misaki. "Shokuhu, take a look at this, Shokuhu Misaki looked at Takitsubu Riku suspiciously. She took the paper from Takitsubu Riku and looked at it. She frowned in surprise. Guards went missing without reason? Kinuhata Sayai and Frenda both stopped what they were doing and turned to look at the report in Shokuhu Misaki's hand. When they saw what was written, they frowned. Low-level guards went missing? There's a panic outside the camp? The higher-ups didn't send anyone to deal with it? Frenda was surprised. What are those higher-ups doing? Kinuhata Sayai muttered. There's already a panic, but they didn't send anyone to deal with it. Shokuhu Misaki narrowed her eyes and placed the paper on the table. This isn't as simple as it seems. Shokuhu Misaki's sharp senses picked up on something and she looked at Takitsubu Riku. Takitsubu, have the sisters investigate this. Takitsubu Riku nodded. Chapter 827. In the center of the giant beast forest camp, inside a large tent, Pelosi, Marcus, and Andrew are sitting opposite each other. It's as if they're having a meeting, discussing something. Looking at Marcus and Andrew, who were unperturbed and completely indifferent, Pelosi's brows furrowed. Are you listening or not? Pelosi's tone was slightly angry. If you don't want to get involved, then I'll go. Why are you stopping me from sending people to investigate the missing persons case? Stop. Pelosi, you're making a fuss out of nothing. Marcus glanced at Pelosi indifferently. It's just a few low-level people going missing. How many? Pelosi laughed out of anger. He slammed a piece of paper on the table. Look at the number of missing people reported by the higher-ups. How many of them are there? How many a day? And in the past month, more than 100 low-level personnel have been declared missing. Hearing this, Marcus narrowed his eyes slightly and exchanged a glance with Andrew. Andrew immediately understood and said to Pelosi, "Is this information accurate?" It could also be a smokescreen set up by those who were ready to make a move. Yes. That's right. Marcus nodded, then he sneered and said, "Don't forget, those guys have been trying to take a bite out of us. They've been eyeing our position all this time. That's why we need to investigate, right?" Pelosi's face tensed up and he looked rather unsightly. Right now, the low-level outskirts of the camp have already caused a very serious panic. There are also rumors that it's some kind of plague or the revenge of some unknown magical beast. It's making people uneasy. Even hunting in Behemoth Forest has decreased a lot. Pelosi glanced at Marcus and Andrew with a serious gaze. We can't let this drag on any longer. We need to control the situation when it's still light and find out the cause. When the influence spreads, I'm afraid that the entire operation of the camp will be paralyzed or even abandoned. Marcus. Andrew. Pelosi stood up and looked down at the two people opposite him. He said in a low voice, "If you don't want to interfere, then don't stop me from interfering. Otherwise, if something really happens, the responsibility is not something we can bear." After that, Pelosi turned around and walked towards the exit of the tent. Before he left, he even took the piece of paper with him. It was obvious that he was going to investigate this matter. When Pelosi turned around, Andrew abruptly raised his head, killing intent flashing in his eyes. A faint mana fluctuation started surging from his body as if it had awakened. Marcus put his hand on Andrew's shoulder. With a slight push, he pushed Andrew back into the chair. He stared at Pelosi's back in silence until he walked out of the tent. Watching Pelosi walk out of the tent, Andrew looked at Marcus with some dissatisfaction. "Why didn't you let me do it?" "Do it?" Marcus turned his head. "You're confident you can take him down without anyone noticing?" Andrew choked, then retorted, "That's better than letting him find out the truth." "Finding out the truth?" Marcus chuckled. "Did you leave any traces behind when you attacked him?" Of course not." "Then there you have it." Marcus rested his chin on his hands. His eyes curved into a sinister smile. "With our strength, it won't take us much effort to take down a few low-level personnel. Pelosi won't be able to find out the truth if we didn't leave any clues behind. If you attack him now, you'll only cause more trouble. It's the same as admitting your guilt." Marcus' words were like an alarm bell that rang in Andrew's heart. He was shocked. Cold sweat dripped down his back. I almost ruined everything." Seeing Andrew's expression, Marcus knew that he had calmed down and patted him on the shoulder. "Now, we can't even take a single wrong step. Once we do, we'll be doomed eternally. You're under too much pressure and made a mistake in your judgment. This isn't your fault, but don't make the same mistake again." Andrew looked at Marcus gratefully. He wiped the sweat off his forehead. "Thank you, Marcus. I've been too impulsive recently." Marcus smiled, but his heart was bitter. Just like Andrew, he was under a lot of pressure. However, he was different from Andrew. Andrew was a little crazy under the pressure. On the other hand, he was calmer and calmer. This was because he knew that he had to deal with things calmly. It's too early to celebrate. Marcus sighed. "Although we're confident Pelosi won't be able to find out anything, it'll be bad if something unexpected happens. We can't afford to make any mistakes. It's best if we restrain ourselves." "Are we still going to restrain ourselves?" Andrew frowned. "Last time, because of Wu Yan's arrival, we already restrained ourselves a lot. We didn't get enough. Master wasn't happy about it. If we restrain ourselves this time, there's nothing wrong with being careful." Marcus knocked on the table. "Master might be unhappy, but he has a use for us. He won't do anything to us." Marcus' voice was full of uncertainty. Andrew could hear this and opened his mouth. Just as he was about to say something, a flame suddenly flew in from the entrance of the tent and shot into Andrew's forehead. In the next moment, Andrew's face changed, his expression became unsightly. "What's wrong?" Marcus' face sank subconsciously. Andrew took a deep breath and said with a gloomy face, "Just now, the detection spell I set up around the campsite sent back an image. The Misaka women seemed to be investigating the disappearance of the girls. Wah. Marcus's face gradually turned unsightly. With a bang, he slammed the table. Shokuhu Misaki must have found something. No way. Andrew turned pale with fright. Didn't you say that we wouldn't be able to find the truth if we didn't leave any clues behind? If Shokuhu Misaki had found out the truth, she wouldn't have sent people to investigate this matter, and we wouldn't be sitting here. Marcus sneered. She must have gotten wind of the disappearance and sent people to investigate. That meddlesome woman. Andrew heaved a sigh of relief. Thank goodness she didn't find anything. That might not be the case. Marcus' eyes flashed with a sharp light. Don't forget that woman's ability is to control people's minds. She's all-pervasive. If she continues to investigate, she might really discover something. Then, what should we do? Andrew had completely lost his sense of propriety, which made Marcus despise him. After all, he was the second most powerful person in the Ladin family, other than the patriarch. Marcus did not expect him to behave like this when something happened. Although he was disappointed, Marcus still said with a grin on his face. Now that things have come to this, let's be careful and kill Shokuhu Misaki. Is there no problem? Andrew couldn't help but ask. Marcus only sneered at him. Although that woman's ability is very special, her strength is very weak. It won't be a problem for us to assassinate her. At this point, Marcus turned around and added. As long as we don't get discovered. Andrew's expression changed rapidly, and there was a slight struggle on his face. But in the end, he leaned toward Marcus' choice and nodded firmly. All right. Let me do it. Andrew took the initiative to accept this assassination mission. Your Saito family's ice dochi is too eye-catching. If we make a mistake, we'll be found out. I'll kill Shokuhu Misaki myself. Marcus pondered for a moment, then nodded and exhorted, don't let anyone discover it, and don't leave any clues behind. It must be clean. Chapter 828. No one knows when, but the news of the missing guard started to spread out slowly. Originally, for this kind of incident that could easily lead to panic, the higher-ups should think of ways to hide it so that the garrison in the camp would not panic and affect the strategy of the giant beast's forest. However, Pelosi did the opposite. Not only did he not suppress the spread of this matter, he even wantonly publicized it. The consequences of this were, of course, as expected, causing panic. But the panic was only temporary. After the matter was exaggerated and spread, Pelosi immediately said that he would definitely investigate this matter to the bottom. Perhaps it was because of Pelosi's reputation, or perhaps it was because he had achieved an abnormal result by doing the opposite, but after a short period of panic, the garrisons actually calmed down and began to support Pelosi. In an instant, Pelosi's reputation in the entire camp reached a commanding height. And all of this seemed to be within Pelosi's expectations. With everyone's support, after announcing the declaration of the investigation, Pelosi immediately gave another strict order. Because the garrison personnel went to bed in the middle of the night and were found missing the next day, Pelosi asked the low-level personnel not to go out at night. Even if they went out, they had to gather with others. The patrol team at night was strengthened in size and vigilance. Once they found something wrong, they can report to him directly if something goes wrong. After such a big movement, the initial signs of uneasiness were suppressed by Pelosi. The garrisons also seemed to feel a sense of security and once again followed the arrangements of the camp in an orderly manner. Only Pelosi knew that this peaceful situation was only temporary. At least, before the real cause of the incident was investigated, or before the next missing person appeared, the situation would be broken. However, the night patrols have increased in numbers. The level of vigilance is also increasing. Around the tents where everyone is staying, the number of people in the tents increased at night, making the camp very lively. Unfortunately, no one could say for sure how useful it was. Including Pelosi, in the night. The tents near the edge of the camp are much quieter than the other tents. One can still hear the faint chirping of insects. In one of the tents, Shokuhu Misaki, who has been busy the whole day, wiped her long blonde hair that is wet from her shower. She breathed a sigh of relief. Her starry eyes twinkled in the darkness where there wasn't enough light. Coupled with her extremely beautiful face, she was breathtakingly beautiful. Shokuhu Misaki is complaining. I have to go to a lake in a specific area to take a shower. There is no hot water or skincare products. I really want to go back to Tokuwadai or the academy, at least there is hot water. Shokuhu Misaki complained, but she didn't really care about this. If she did, she could just go to Wu Yan and ask for his help. With the magical items in the system and Wu Yan's equipment points, it would only take a few minutes for Shokuhu Misaki to solve this problem. That's why Shokuhu Misaki only complained a little. After drying her hair, she shook her head and looked at her golden hair flowing in the air. She couldn't help but smile. Shokuhu Misaki is very satisfied with her appearance. She looked at herself in the mirror and smiled seductively. No wonder that bastard likes me so much. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to charm you to death. After saying that, Shokuhu Misaki walked to the magic lamp and turned it off. She yawned and walked towards her bed. Silence reigned in the tent once again. However, before Shokuhu Misaki could even get to her bed, a psychic wave suddenly entered her senses. She couldn't even sense it. Shokuhu Misaki's yawn froze when she felt the psyche wave. Her eyes widened. Shokuhu Misaki's ability can sense psyche waves, but she can't determine the person's identity based on the psyche wave. However, judging from the erratic trajectory of the psyche wave, the possibility of it being someone she knows is close to zero. Shokuhu Misaki is certain that the person is not friendly. Shokuhu Misaki's sleepiness disappeared in an instant. She turned around and looked at the entrance of the tent. She clenched her fist and her face tensed up. It's here. At the same time, a mass of black gas suddenly drilled into the tent from the outside, and instantly gathered into a black cloud. Shokuhu Misaki took a step back without hesitation. Whoosh! As soon as Shokuhu Misaki retreated, the dark clouds swirled and a gust of cold wind swept towards Shokuhu Misaki like a shadow, wrapping around her. Bang! Shokuhu Misaki's body suddenly glowed and turned into a ripple. When the black cloud hit the ripple, it was bounced back. Huh! Within the dark clouds, a surprised voice rang out, as if surprised by the changes in Shokuhu Misaki's body, followed by a series of angry growls. Shokuhu Misaki heaved a sigh of relief. A transparent dragon-shaped armor appeared around her, protecting her. That was the real identity of Marie. Mental dragon armor. Since it was useless against Wu Yan, who has the body of a true ancestor, the armor he placed on Shokuhu Misaki saved her life. Of course, it's still too early to feel relieved. The dark cloud circled around the entrance of the tent and turned into the shape of a wolf. It had a long tail and fangs in its mouth. It looked like a black wolf wrapped in clouds. Shokuhu Misaki sucked in a cold breath. Woo! With a low growl, the black wolf opened its mouth, and a black beam shot out from within. It let out a shrill whistle and pierced towards the dragon armor protecting Shokuhu Misaki. Clang! The dragon armor shuddered and its color faded. It almost collapsed. Shokuhu Misaki was shocked. She didn't care that the controller was not with her. She used all her strength to launch a mental attack and pierced into the dark clouds. Chi, woo! A tearing sound was heard. The dark cloud around the black wolf shrunk and it howled in pain. The eyes of the wolf started glowing red. Shokuhu Misaki cursed in her heart. Her ability seemed to be effective against the black wolf, but it didn't have much of an effect. It's obvious that the black cloud, or rather the one controlling it, is much stronger than her. Much stronger than her. Is this the culprit behind the disappearance? Am I her next target? Shokuhu Misaki bit her lips and looked at the entrance that was blocked by the black wolf. She couldn't help but feel anxious. Escape? But the black wolf is blocking the exit. Scream? He was afraid that before he could even cry out, the black wolf's attack would have arrived. And from the way the Psyche Dragon armor trembled after blocking that attack, this C-grade rare armament dragon-shaped armor definitely wouldn't be able to block the next attack. Her weak body would also not be able to withstand a single blow, and she would perish as well. Thinking of this, Shokuhu Misaki became even more anxious. Woo! While Shokuhu Misaki was panicking, the black wolf opened its mouth again, and a faint black light flashed in its mouth. Shokuhu Misaki instinctively closed her eyes. "You're courting death." Just as the black light was about to shoot out again, a furious roar exploded like a clap of thunder. It soared into the sky and reverberated over the entire camp, waking everyone who was still in their sweet dreams. It also startled the patrolling personnel and Pelosi and Marcus who were in their respective tents. "What's going on?" Pelosi ran out of the tent in bewilderment. Marcus, who was still in the tent, had an ominous premonition in his heart. He hurriedly ran out of the tent, looked at Pelos, and ran in the direction of the sound, accompanied by a group of patrol personnel. To be continued. Chapter 829. Using his secret magic to hide his tracks, he snuck into Shokuhu Misaki's tent as fast as he could, assassinated her, and escaped with her body, pretending that she had gone missing. This was the entirety of Andrew's plan, a simple and clear one. Unfortunately, he'd miscalculated. He'd miscalculated from the very beginning. Andrew thought that Shokuhu Misaki's ability was to control people's minds, but that was only a small part of her ability. He did not expect her to be able to detect his presence through mental waves. That was how she discovered him from the start. Fortunately, Shokuhu Misaki may be able to detect other people's mental waves, but she can't use them to identify the person. As long as Andrew kills Shokuhu Misaki as fast as he can, his plan will still work. No matter what, he was still a Type 8 Divine Warrior, while Shokuhu Misaki was only in the lower middle of the Type 8 Divine Warriors. Her ability was a godly skill against those weaker than her, but against those stronger than her, even if it wasn't useless, it wouldn't have much of an effect. However, Andrew had miscalculated again. The existence of the dragon armor bought Shokuhu Misaki a little bit of time, and that little bit of time was enough to push Andrew to the brink of death. Bang! The black wolf formed by the dark clouds was sent flying as if it had been hit by a heavy hammer. It smashed into the top of the tent, which had been reinforced by magic and was harder than the walls. Soon after, it fell down and heavily smashed into the ground. A suppressed howl of pain was emitted from the black wolf's body, proving just how heavy the blow was. What is going on? Andrew, who was hiding in the black wolf, was hit so hard that his brain short-circuited. He couldn't react in time. By the time he reacted and controlled the black wolf to spring up from the ground, he finally realized it. Originally, there was only him and Shokuhu Misaki in the tent, but now, there was an additional figure. Impossible. That was the first thought that came to Andrew's mind when he saw the figure. The exit was clearly blocked behind him, but this person in front of him. How did this person appear beside Shokuhu Misaki? Of course, not long after this thought arose, a gaze that was infinitely close to freezing point enveloped him, causing Andrew's heart to tremble violently. A fatal chill emerged from the bottom of his spine, instantly covering his entire back. He looked up. In front of him, the figure was holding Shokuhu Misaki in his arms. A pair of wine-red eyes stared at Andrew. Inside those eyes, there was a murderous aura that was like a volcano erupting. Andrew couldn't help but take a step back because of that murderous aura. Little Yen. She felt the familiar embrace. Shokuhu Misaki let out a sigh of relief. Her tense nerves finally calmed down. Her face paled as she clutched Wu Yan's shirt tightly. She didn't want to let go of his shirt. Little Chi. Seeing Shokuhu Misaki's pale face, Wu Yan was enraged. Even though he gave the dragon armor to Shokuhu Misaki, it was still his noble phantasm. If something happened to his noble phantasm, Wu Yan would be able to sense it. What's more, Wu Yan set up a telepathic spell on the girls. If the girls are in danger, Wu Yan would be able to sense it at the first instance. When Wu Yan sensed that Shokuhu Misaki was in danger, he used a teleportation spell to get here. The black wolf was about to deal the final blow to Shokuhu Misaki. If he came half a second later. Wu Yan's pupils started trembling when he thought of this. He couldn't suppress the fear that rose from the bottom of his heart. Along with it came a towering rage that could shake the heavens and earth. Misaki-chan. Wu Yan lowered his head, his demonic voice came from the depths of hell. Wu Yan couldn't see his expression. Take a step back. Shokuhu Misaki didn't feel any fear when she heard his demonic voice. Instead, she felt sweet inside. She nodded obediently and retreated to the back. Her starry eyes stared at Wu Yan with a mesmerized look in them. Contrary to Shokuhu Misaki, Andrew was so frightened by the terrifying voice that he took a step back. In his heart, he felt a sense of danger, urging him to leave. Sensing that sense of crisis, Andrew could not help but shout out in his heart, "Impossible. That brat is so young, it's already a miracle that he could reach the Type 8 realm at such a young age. How could he, a peak Type 8 warrior, feel threatened?" However, the next moment, Wu Yan raised his head. When Andrew saw his face, he sucked in a breath of cold air. In the other party's eyes, the pair of wine-red eyes had turned golden. Carrying an extremely cold gaze, he stared at him closely, like a ferocious beast staring at its prey. Today. Wu Yan's voice was the coldest it had ever been in his life. If I let you escape from my eyes, then I, Wu Yan, will never step into the Spalier world again. The moment his words fell, a terrifying aura burst out from Wu Yan's body. The aura contained within had already far surpassed Andrew's peak. Boom! Outside Shokuhu Misaki's tent, Pelosi, Marcus, and the rest of the camp's guards had just arrived when the tent in front of them exploded. A powerful shockwave blasted out from the tent and swept across the entire area. Careful! Pelosi and Marcus were shocked. They hurriedly raised their hands to block in front of them, resisting the oncoming wind. But even so, they were still blown back a few steps. If even the two peak Tier 8 combatants were in such a state, the rest of the guards were even worse off. Those who were slightly stronger were only pushed back by the shockwave. However, those who weren't strong enough weren't as lucky. They didn't even have time to circulate their do chi or mana before they were blown away by the shockwave. In an instant, it was as if the entire camp had been swept by a tornado. The sky was filled with broken pieces of rubble from the ground. Some figures were even blown into the sky by the strong wind and then smashed onto the ground. Wails of pain rang out everywhere. Not long after, the entire camp was filled with the wails of the garrison members. What a powerful force. What the hell is going on? Pelosi and Marcus looked in front of them in horror. The shockwave from the explosion of the tent had passed, but the place was covered in smoke and dust. Faint traces of fire could be seen flashing through it. A corner of the smoke suddenly protruded outwards, and a figure shot out from there. Under the gaze of everyone present, the figure landed hard on the ground, bounced a few times, and fell in front of Pelosi and Marcus, who were at the forefront, with smoke and dust all over his body. Poochie. A mouthful of dark red blood sprayed out from the other party's mouth, dyeing his clothes and lips red, revealing a pale face filled with fear. Seeing this face, Pelosi's and Marcus' complexion changed rapidly. Andrew. Hearing the two people's shouts, Lu Sun quickly turned his head. When he saw Pelosi and Marcus, his eyes suddenly lit up and he shouted. Pelosi. Marcus. Save me. As soon as he said that, another voice came from within the cloud of dust. It was like a gust of wind had swept through the area. Save you? The sound of footsteps followed the sound and fell into the ears of everyone present. Andrew looked in the direction of the smoke and dust with a horrified expression. He sat on the ground and couldn't help but shuffle backward. The others also looked in front of them in horror. Who? Just who was it that could scare the peak stage 8 Andrew to this extent? Wu Yan slowly walked out of the smoke with Shokuhu Misaki behind him. Wu Yan looked at Andrew with an expressionless face. His voice echoed in the air. You are right. No one can save you. Chapter 830. Looking at the figure that walked out of the smoke and dust and stepped on the collapsed ground, Pelosi and Marcus' pupils slowly shrank. Wu Yan. The entire place was silent. The word Wu Yan reverberated in the ears of all the guards present. Their expressions turned sluggish as they stared at the figure in front of them with their mouths agape. Could it be that the person who scared the peak Tier 8 Andrew to the point where he coughed up blood is the same Wu Yan who just graduated from Silveria World Institute? Silence ensued, no one dared to make even the slightest sound. Only Wu Yan's footsteps could be heard in this space. His footsteps were rhythmic and gave off an illusory feeling. If it wasn't for the painful wails coming from their bodies due to the shock waves, they would have thought that they were dreaming. In the back, Shokuhu Misaki watched all of this quietly. She didn't react until she heard a few shouts behind her. Shokuhu, Hinajuku, Mikoto, and the other girls all rushed to Shokuhu Misaki's side. What's wrong? Mikoto asked. What happened? Yeah. Chuju looked at Wu Yan with a strange glint in her eyes. What the hell is going on? I've never seen Yan like that before. Shokuhu Misaki smiled lightly. There was sweetness and bitterness in her smile, but most of it was helplessness. She slowly shook her head and explained the entire matter to the many young ladies in a simple manner. When the girls heard this, their expressions changed as well. They looked at Andrew in front of them with cold light and anger in their eyes. Don't come any closer. As Wu Yan got closer and closer, Andrew's expression became more and more fearful. His collapsed body kept shuffling backwards. It was as if something terrifying was approaching. That unbearable appearance made it hard for many to believe that he was actually a powerhouse at the peak of the 8th step. This also proved how much of an impact Wu Yan had on him. Wu Yan narrowed his eyes and he continued walking towards Andrew like he didn't hear anything. Andrew finally broke down. He turned around and shouted. Pelosi. Marcus. What are you guys doing? Hurry up and save me. Pelosi and Marcus finally reacted and hurriedly stepped forward. Stop. Wu Yan glanced at them indifferently and ignored them. He looked at Andrew again and a surge of mana surged out of his body. He raised one hand and from the looks of it, he wanted to kill Andrew. I told you to stop, didn't you hear me? Marcus was enraged. Ice blue do-chi also surged out from his body, but almost at the same time, a flame and a gunshot impatiently resounded. Then, behind Marcus, a huge flaming battle axe and an ancient long rifle were pressed against his head. I can't allow you to move around like that. Kotori, who was in her fairy form, she was wearing a kimono and holding her scorched destroyer demon. She had a sinister smile on her face. I didn't allow you to get close to my brother. It's rare for Lord Husband to want to make a big fuss. Kurumi, who was wearing a black and red gothic princess dress and a pair of ponytails of different sizes, revealing 2 pupils of different colors, one red and one gold, was also holding her own angel. She pressed the rifle against Marcus's head and licked the corner of her mouth devilishly. Hey! Can you please not disturb him? Marcus' figure stiffened. The ice-attributed chi on his body also stagnated as if it was being choked, and a drop of sweat slid down his forehead. When did these 2 women? Marcus. Pelos exclaimed and reflexively intended to step forward to rescue, but he soon froze like Marcus, not daring to move again. The reason was naturally because of a blue light sword and a slender hand that had been placed on his neck at some point in time. It was Ikaros and Astria. Stand here and don't move. Astria's usual liveliness was gone, her beautiful face was taut with tension. If you move, I will cut you down. Ikaros didn't say anything. She just stared straight at Pelosi's face with her crimson pupils. Looking at this beautiful face in front of him, Pelosi didn't doubt that if he moved, his neck would definitely be broken by her. 2 peak Tier 8 combatants fell into the hands of Kotori, Kurumi, Ikaros, and Astria in the blink of an eye. The surrounding guards all took a step back. Seeing that the 3 strongest people in charge of their own camp had fallen into the hands of others, they were at a loss. They didn't know what to do at all, and for a moment, it almost caused chaos. Pelosi, Sama. Marcus, Sama. Andrew, Sama. Quick. Save the three lords. Let go of the lords. Calm down, all of you. Pelosi raised his hand and shouted. Everyone, do not act rashly. Hearing Pelosi's words, the crowd slowly calmed down. In the end, it didn't cause any real chaos. However, Pelosi and Marcus's expressions were quite unsightly. Perhaps they didn't expect that they would be taken down by a few little girls in a single move. Pelosi. Marcus. Andrew's expression changed drastically when he saw this. It was also at this moment that a foot kicked him in the chest. Boom. Ah. Andrew howled miserably. His body flew out in a beautiful arc and crashed into the ground not far away. Then, the foot that kicked him came down from the sky and stomped on his chest. The ferocious force caused the air in Andrew's chest to leak out of his mouth and nose. He almost suffocated. Andrew. Pelosi's face trembled, and Marcus shouted angrily. Wu Yan. Do you know what you are doing? You shut the F***ck up. Wu Yan roared at Marcus in a fit of rage. Marcus was stunned by Wu Yan's roar. His face turned from green to white. It's an ugly sight to behold. He, Marcus, has never been scolded by anyone before. Not even his elder brother, the patriarch of the Saito family. You. Marcus's face was ashen. He wanted to flare up, but the cold muzzle of the gun and the scorching hot battle axe behind him forced him to endure. Thus, his ashen face turned red again, and his heart was filled with hatred. Humph. Wu Yan coldly snorted. He looked at Andrew, who was still struggling under his feet. He exerted some force on his foot and Andrew groaned in pain. His struggle weakened as well. Speak. Why did you kill Xiaoqi? Suppressing his violent emotions, he continued in a cold tone. Based on your answer, I can give you a quick death. No. No. Andrew was terrified by Wu Yan's ferocious look. He shook his head and screamed. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Wu Yan. Calm down. Pelosi was shocked by Wu Yan's words. He shouted at him. There must be some kind of misunderstanding. Please don't do anything rash. Marcus gritted his teeth. He suppressed his anger and growled. This is the Ailu Empire's camp. Andrew is one of the people in charge here. Are you trying to commit a crime by killing him? Wu Yan laughed out loud. His voice was unusually cold. Crime? Then wait until I kill him. Then you can punish me. What? Pelosi shouted. Wu Yan, there must be some kind of misunderstanding. Don't kill the wrong person and cause unnecessary trouble. Misunderstanding? Wu Yan looked at Andrew coldly. Fine. Tell me, why did you appear in Xiaoqi's tent and try to kill her? Chapter 831. From the roar in the sky to the arrival of everyone in the camp, the explosion of the tent, the subduing of 3 peak rank 8 powerhouses, and the chaos that ensued, the entire process took only about 10 minutes. Everything happened too suddenly and too quickly. Even now, some people were still in a daze, unable to comprehend the situation. Similarly, Pelosi was no exception. Only Marcus, who was subdued by Kotori and Kurumi, knew what was going on. Only then did he know why things had developed to this point. Either Andrew didn't do his job well, or he was discovered in the middle of the attack. In the end, not only did Shokuhu Misaki not die, but she also ended up like this. Things couldn't be worse than this situation right now. Marcus acted like he didn't know what happened, but inside, he was worried sick. He wasn't afraid that the situation in the camp would become chaotic. What he was truly afraid of was that if something really happened to Andrew, then it was very likely that everything behind this would be exposed. He might even be dragged into this mess. At that time, the situation would truly become serious. Therefore, no matter what, either Andrew died before he could say anything, or he absolutely could not let him die. Of course, the former wasn't so easy to achieve. Even with Marcus' insidious nature, he couldn't find a way in this situation. So, Marcus simply chose the latter. Wu Yan. Marcus glanced at Andrew, who was being stepped on by Wu Yan, and he took the initiative to speak up. You said Andrew wanted to kill Shokuhu Misaki. Do you have any proof? Yes. Yeah, Wu Yan. Compared to Marcus, Pelosi, who was kept in the dark, is much more cautious. Andrew is one of the people in charge of the camp. He doesn't have any grudges with Shokuhu-san. They rarely interact with each other. Why would he want to kill her? There must be some misunderstanding. Ha! Wu Yan mocked. He didn't try to hide the anger in his heart that hasn't been extinguished. Are you saying there's something wrong with my eyes? How could I be wrong about what I saw with my own eyes? Sensing the fury in Wu Yan's tone, both Pelosi and Marcus sighed inwardly at how troublesome this is. A person in a fit of rage is usually unable to think rationally. It would be much harder for him to talk and negotiate a verdict. Wu Yan's rage is boundless and his rationality is on the verge of collapse. I'm afraid he won't listen to them. They didn't know how important Shokuhu Misaki and the girls were to Wu Yan. Wu Yan wasn't just angry at Andrew, he was also angry at himself. He was angry at himself for not being able to make it in time. Even if he used his teleportation ability. Fortunately, Shokuhu Misaki didn't die. Otherwise, even Pelosi and Marcus, who stood up for him, would be implicated, let alone Andrew. They had to endure Wu Yan's anger. You saw it with your own eyes. It won't be convincing to others. Marcus looked at Wu Yan's face. Unless there's someone who can testify. Wu Yan's expression turned cold. Shokuhu Misaki sighed. She stood up. Then, if the victim testifies, it should be more convincing, right? Shokuhu Misaki continued. Indeed, it was this person who snuck into my tent and tried to kill me. Kill you? Then how come nothing happened to you? Before Shokuhu Misaki could finish, Marcus interrupted her. Andrew is a peak type 8. Miss Shokuhu, I recall that you are not even a peak type 8 yet. Let alone a peak type 8. A peak of the 8th step sneaked into the residence of someone who isn't even a high 8th step, and even used assassination methods, yet he didn't even cause the slightest bit of harm to that person. The corners of Marcus' mouth curled up. Miss Shokuhu, this doesn't make sense. The crowd began to whisper among themselves. Some of them even nodded in agreement, thinking that Marcus was right. But who would have thought that Shokuhu Misaki just looked at him with a faint smile and said, that's right. A peak type 8 being trampled on by a 25-year-old who just graduated from an academy. That doesn't make sense. Marcus choked. Even Pelosi choked. They knew that Shokuhu Misaki was mocking their so-called strength theory. Let's put aside whether it makes sense or not. Marcus muttered to himself before he spoke to Wu Yan. You should at least let Andrew explain himself. That's right. Hearing Marcus' words, Andrew seemed to have regained his senses. He pushed against Wu Yan's foot and shouted. I didn't kill Shokuhu Misaki. I heard her roar and rushed over to check on the situation. The moment I entered the tent, you kicked me out. I don't know what happened. The crowd suddenly burst into an uproar. Marcus grinned and unconsciously puffed out his chest. Wu Yan, based on the current situation, it seems like you were the one who indiscriminately attacked him. Wu Yan laughed. He was happy but angry at the same time. There's no evidence for what we said, and it's not persuasive at all. Instead, what he said became the situation that you mentioned. Believing the suspect's words instead of the victim's words. This is the first time I've heard of this. Is this the law of the Ailu Empire? That's really strange. Marcus pursed his lips and said, you don't have any evidence to prove that what you said is true, do you? Proof? Wu Yan clenched his fists and laughed. Are you kidding me, uncle? I can take his life any time I want. Do I need proof? Marcus took a deep breath. He was speechless. Pelosi stepped forward and tried to persuade him. How about this, Wu Yan, let go of Andrew. We will investigate this matter. Before that, we will keep an eye on him. Not only did Wu Yan laugh, Shokuhu Misaki, Kodori, and the others laughed as well. It was a very sarcastic laugh. You guys are here to investigate? Wu Yan snickered at Pelosi and Marcus. Do you think I don't know the way your higher-ups turn big problems into small ones and small ones into nothing? Wu Yan looked at Andrew as if he was annoyed. His eyes were filled with killing intent and anger. Looks like you're not going to answer my question. Seeing the murderous intent in Wu Yan's eyes, Marcus cursed under his breath. He roared at Wu Yan. Wu Yan. He's from the Ladin family, he's the person in charge of this camp. If you kill him, you'll be making an enemy out of the entire Ailu Empire. Enemy. 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 Marcus' roar echoed through the silent camp. The atmosphere turned heavy. Even Wu Yan lowered his head in silence. Looking at Wu Yan's silence, Marcus thought his words worked. Little did he know, he said the stupidest thing he could have ever said. Wu Yan's lips curled into a dangerous smile. He slowly raised his head, his eyes turned golden once more. In the next moment, a dense blue and white electric light burst out from his body. The fatal electric current passed through the foot that was stepping on Andrew's chest and into his body without leaving a trace behind. Andrew let out a blood-curdling scream. After a short while, his entire body turned into charcoal under the electric current. Wisps of smoke rose from his charred body. Andrew's aura disappeared without a trace. There was nothing left to hold him back. Time stopped at this moment. You. Pelosi and Marcus stared at Wu Yan in disbelief. Wu Yan's golden eyes reverted back to their burgundy color. He tilted his body and looked at Marcus, who was still in a daze. I'm the one who killed him. Don't get it wrong. Wu Yan waved his robe and he walked away. The girls followed after him, leaving the rest of the crowd behind. They stared at Andrew's charred body in silence. They didn't say anything for a long time. Chapter 832. Bastard. Bang. Marcus slammed the table in front of him into smithereens. His eyes were bloodshot as he panted heavily. The hatred in his heart didn't lessen at all. He wanted to destroy everything in his tent. Those who know Marcus know that he has a bad temper, a very bad one. Once his temper flared up, even a mosquito flying in front of him would become the source of his anger. Usually, at this time, the servants in charge of taking care of Marcus' daily life would suffer because they would become Marcus' punching bags and might even lose their lives. If it wasn't for the fact that Marcus was the second in command of the Saito family, and if it wasn't for the fact that he was a peak stage 8th Order warrior, he would have offended a lot of people already. But no matter how bad Marcus's temper was, the number of times he lost his temper was second only to the number of times he lost his temper during mealtimes. Originally, Marcus was already pissed off when Mikoto and Shokuhu Misaki brought the entire Misaka Corps to this camp. But now, not only was his secret activities investigated by Pelosi, Shokuhu Misaki even came and tried to assassinate Mikoto but failed in the end. This was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that he was being threatened by two little girls with weapons against his head in front of so many people. He wanted to save Andrew's life, but in the end, Andrew was killed right in front of his eyes because of his words. Andrew's death was one thing. Although both of them were in the same boat and were partners in the same plan, their relationship wasn't that good. The one Marcus couldn't stand was Wu Yan. Not only did he not listen to his last words, he even killed Andrew on the spot. Marcus's face was completely destroyed. There were even rumors in the camp that Wu Yan didn't show any mercy because Marcus's threat to become the enemy of the entire Ailu Empire angered him. That was why Andrew was killed. How could the proud and arrogant Marcus endure this? Wu Yan. Wu Yan, the hatred in his heart didn't decrease but increased instead. Marcus' mind was filled with that contemptuous and sneering face. Moreover, it was becoming clearer and clearer. It was so clear that Marcus wanted to smash his head on the spot. Ah, Marcus bellowed, and his ice-attributed chi burst out in an explosive manner. Like a ripple, it swept through the entire tent. Anything that came into contact with the icy blue do chi wave would be frozen into ice within a breath's time. Then, with a cracked sound, it would be crushed into powder. By the time the chi ripples on Marcus' body subsided, apart from an empty tent, the bed, table, chair, tools, and so on had all disappeared from the huge space. Marcus's teeth were still grinding, but his mind had calmed down. He clenched his fists. Now that things have come to this. Andrew is dead. There's no way to bring him back. What he should do now is think about what to do next. This time, Andrew is dead. Luckily, he didn't expose himself. The inside story wasn't discovered. The disappearance wasn't solved bit by bit. The plan is still in progress. Wu Yan's attack was too sudden. Andrew didn't even have time to react. He didn't even get a chance to say a word before he died. Andrew was aggrieved, but it wasn't a bad thing for Marcus. The only downside is that Andrew is dead. I can only carry out the rest of the plan. If I rely on myself, the harvest will definitely decrease. When that happens, the master will not be happy. I'm afraid I'll have a hard time. Marcus hated Wu Yan for killing Andrew and causing him to fall to this extent. If he could, he would kill Wu Yan right here and now. Unfortunately, Marcus didn't have much confidence in facing Wu Yan. Andrew was also at the peak of the 8th rank like him. Even if he had ice do chi and Andrew was weaker than him, he didn't dare to say that he could kill Andrew without any injuries. But Wu Yan did it. Then, he can be sure that Wu Yan's strength is above his. To be able to kill a peak of the 8th rank without any injuries, could it be that Wu Yan has already reached the 9th rank? No. That's impossible. Marcus subconsciously avoided this guess. It's not that he knows Wu Yan's true strength. It's just that he doesn't want to admit that the person he hates has already climbed to the peak of the 9th rank. With this thought in mind, Marcus thought of 3 possibilities. First, before the tent exploded, the one who injured Andrew wasn't Wu Yan but the 2 other 9th rank powerhouses. But this possibility can be ruled out. Ignoring the fact that the 2 9th rank powerhouses didn't arrive until later, if it was someone else, then Andrew wouldn't be so afraid of Wu Yan. The only explanation is that he did it himself. Second, Wu Yan must have teamed up with Shokuhu Misaki to defeat Andrew. But that doesn't make sense either. If he teamed up with Shokuhu Misaki, then even if Andrew was defeated, he wouldn't be afraid, even if his life was in danger. No matter what, he's still a peak of the 8th rank. The last possibility is that Wu Yan did it alone. Only if he did it alone and defeated Andrew without any injuries could he have caused Andrew to be in such a state. But that shouldn't be his true strength, it should be some treasure left behind for him. For example, some medicine that can temporarily increase his strength, or a high-grade armament. This possibility is high. After all, his nephew who participated in the Beast King incident with Wu Yan said that he has a medicine that can temporarily prevent injuries. With that medicine, defeating Andrew shouldn't be difficult. Furthermore, his nephew also said that Wu Yan has a gold armament. That was an armament that even he, and even his elder brother, the patriarch, did not have. Normally, gold armaments can only be obtained after reaching the 9th rank. For example, his father, the previous head of the Saito clan, had a gold armament. Other Type 9 powerhouses also have one. Other than Type 9 powerhouses, it's almost impossible for a Type 8 to have a gold armament. Come to think of it, in the Spalier World Academy, only Princess Sylph managed to obtain a gold armament during the auction. Others like Kaya and Jaffer, who were the pillars of the royal family, did not manage to obtain a gold armament even though they were also at the 8th rank. One can imagine how valuable a gold armament is. Wu Yan must be a Type 8 powerhouse. To be able to become the strongest student in the Spalier World Academy, he must be stronger than Shokuhu Misaki. Shokuhu Misaki was a mid-type 8 while Wu Yan should be a high-type 8 powerhouse, or even a peak type 8. A high-rank 8 warrior with a gold armament would be able to defeat a peak rank 8 warrior without a gold armament without a single injury. That would not be impossible. There are 3 possibilities, but Marcus didn't consider them. Wu Yan has been using his true strength since the beginning. To defeat a peak type 8 powerhouse without any injuries, Wu Yan doesn't need to reach the 9th rank. With endless martial arts and the true ancestor's bloodline, he could already challenge those of a higher rank when he was still at the peak of the 7th rank. Now that he has mana and an endless supply of spells, if he still can't defeat someone of the same rank, he'll be dead. Marcus took a deep breath and calmed his heart. Then, he turned around and walked out of the tent. Chapter 833. Today's Behemoth Forest camp is much more orderly than usual. It's a little more oppressive than usual. Every guard couldn't help but recall what happened last night. When they passed by Shokuhu Misaki's tent, they couldn't help but glance at the empty space in front of them. When they saw the black marks on the ground, they couldn't help but feel fear. A peak rank 8 warrior, a member of the Ladin family, one of the 3 great families of the empire, one of the leaders of the Behemoth Forest camp. Just last night, right in front of their eyes, he was killed while still alive. The culprit is still in the camp, he hasn't left. The other 2 leaders and the guards sent by the Ladin family didn't go after him. All of this was beyond the comprehension of these ordinary guards. They didn't know what the higher-ups were thinking. Why would they allow a murderer who killed the person in charge of the camp to continue staying in the camp? Why would no one bother him? But they had a feeling that a storm was coming. Coupled with the horrifying disappearance of the low-level garrison, although the camp was still operating normally, an oppressive atmosphere lingered around the entire camp, causing everyone's heart to feel heavy. If this continued, it was likely that after a certain period of time, the pressure would accumulate to the point where their nerves could not bear it. In that case, it wouldn't be strange for the guards to go crazy. Noticing the situation in the camp, Pelosi started contacting the Ailu Empire's royal family, leaving aside Marcus' actions for the time being. Regardless of the situation in the camp, the mysterious disappearance, or the death of Andrew from the Ladin family. If it was just 1 or 2 items, it would be fine, but if they were all added up, even Pelosi felt a little overwhelmed. If he didn't ask for permission, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to hold on. Especially when it comes to Wu Yan. Andrew from the Ladin family was killed. This is a huge matter. Andrew was a peak rank 8 warrior and his position in the Ladin family was second only to the patriarch. Other than the patriarch and the rank 9 powerhouse behind the scenes, Andrew was the head of the Ladin family. Pelosi can imagine how angry the Ladin family would be if such a person was killed while he was in charge of the camp. If things go wrong, the relationship between the 2 sides would be irreparable. Pelosi obviously couldn't care less about this level of problem. After all, on the surface, Andrew was still managing the camp for the Ailu Empire, helping the imperial family. The one who killed him was the fiancé of the Ailu Empire's imperial family. Thus, Pelosi had no choice but to ask for the imperial family's permission. The Spalier world uses crystal balls to communicate, as long as the crystal ball's function is strong enough. No matter where they are, they would be able to communicate with people far away. Andrew's death may have only happened yesterday, but it was already known by almost everyone in Ailu Empire. Of course, the Ladin family was one of them. The entire Ladin family was furious. Not long after Pelosi reported the situation, the head of the Ladin family had already reported it to the Ailu Empire's royal family. They had no choice, they wanted to cause trouble for Wu Yan, they wanted nothing more than to kill Wu Yan. However, even though the Ladin family was powerful, if they really went all out against Wu Yan's group, then Wu Yan himself would be a problem. Ikaros and Flanderchan, these 2 rank 9 warriors were the first obstacle they had to overcome. The Ladin family, on the other hand, only had 1 rank 9 warrior. Not to mention, behind Wu Yan's group was a demigod warrior whose whereabouts were unknown, Yakumo Yukari. Go to their doorstep? The patriarch of the Ladin family must have eaten something wrong to do this. They had no choice but to go to their parents. However, Wu Yan's group didn't belong to any faction in the Spalier world. Therefore, the only thing the Ladin family could do was to go to the imperial family. After all, Wu Yan was the imperial family's son-in-law. Because of this, Kite was already having a headache. The stage 9 powerhouses of the Ladin family had already brought up the idea of killing one of their family's top combatants multiple times in the council meeting. They would definitely not let this matter rest. Andrew's death happened while he was guarding the giant beast forest camp. Strictly speaking, he was working for the Ailu Empire. His death wasn't just a matter of the Ladin family, it was a matter of the entire empire. Even the Ailu Empire's royal family and the other two families couldn't stay out of it. Therefore, the Ladin family's rank 9 warrior took the opportunity to propose a collective punishment for Wu Yan. But who would be stupid enough to go along with him? If anything went wrong, Yakumo Yukari would come for revenge. Moreover, the Ailu imperial family and the Lori family were on good terms with Wu Yan. They wouldn't agree to punish Wu Yan. Similarly, other than the Ladin family, the Saito family was also on bad terms with Wu Yan. After all, Yukari severely injured a rank 9 warrior of the Saito family in front of the council. The Saito family's Bing Ling also ran into a wall with Wu Yan many times. Bing Mian almost died because of Wu Yan. Although it was his own doing, he reaped what he sowed. Therefore, there were 2 votes against and 2 votes for the punishment. This matter escalated to the point where the 12 rank 9 warriors of the academy were dragged out. Of course, there was no conclusion in the end. Yakumo Yukari was an obstacle that no one could ignore. The Ladin family could only return to their home base with a heart full of grievances. However, since the matter had escalated to this stage, many people couldn't stay out of it. The Ladin family wouldn't let this matter rest either. The Ladin family couldn't afford to offend a demigod warrior. They wouldn't dare to cause too much trouble, but they wouldn't mind giving out a little bit of trouble. In the central area of the giant beast's forest, outside Pelosi's and Marcus' tent, the guards sent by the Ladin family were already standing there. Chase them out. Chase them out. Chase them out. Chase them out. The members of the Ladin family were all gathered in the campsite, and they raised their armors while shouting at the 2 people in charge who were standing at the entrance of the tent. The surroundings were filled with people who had come to watch the show, and many of them could roughly guess what was going on. Pelosi and Marcus glanced at each other, shook their heads, and sighed. Pelosi had a troubled look in his eyes, while Marcus was completely gloating. Be quiet. Pelosi frowned and shouted coldly, what do you think this place is? Is it downtown? Pelosi's scolding had some effect. The crowd gradually quietened down, but they didn't leave. It was obvious that they weren't going to let this matter rest. Not long after, one of the leaders walked out. Sir Pelosi. Sir Marcus. He bowed to the 2 people in charge of the camp, but his tone wasn't polite at all. We know that our actions have caused trouble for you, my lords, but please understand that we really cannot stay in the same place with a group of criminals who do not obey the camp's management, act alone, and do things without any scruples. Therefore, please drive these outsiders out of the camp, my lords. Otherwise, we really can't be at ease. Yes, yes. As soon as the leader finished speaking, someone immediately responded, who knows when they'll attack us if they're unhappy. We're not their opponents. Not only the people from the Ladin family, but even the people who were watching the commotion exchanged glances with each other and began to ponder. Some of them also responded, and it seemed that they had the same concerns as Linley. As time went by, more and more people responded. At this point, there were so many voices that they couldn't be separated. If this continued, everyone in the camp would participate in this matter. Things were getting serious. Chapter 834. That's right. Who would dare to live in the same camp as a person who didn't care about anything and killed at will? Wu Yan did mention that Andrew ambushed Shokuhu Misaki last night. However, Wu Yan didn't have any evidence to back up his claim. He didn't go through a thorough investigation before killing Andrew. His actions made many people uneasy. They are afraid. They are afraid that one day, they will accidentally walk into Wu Yan's gun and lose their lives. The Behemoth Forest camp isn't like the outside world. The people here are here to protect the Behemoth Forest and the Ailu Empire. Outside, murders happen every day. The Spalier world is a place where the strong are respected. But in this camp, there hasn't been a single murder since the camp was built. Because everyone here was a living force that could fight against the magical beasts. Just like in ancient times, killing someone is as easy as nodding. But in the same army, who would dare to kill each other without breaking any rules? They are all comrades. In addition, the guards stationed in the camp were all people sent by some forces. Killing one of them was very likely to implicate the whole family behind him. At that time, it was very likely that it would evolve into a fight between families. That would be a really big deal. The guards in the camp all knew that fighting and competing for benefits was a common thing here. However, if someone died, it wouldn't be so easy to solve the problem. Therefore, no matter how serious the conflict is, they will try their best to avoid killing each other. However, Wu Yan and his group didn't have such scruples. Even a peak rank 8. If he dared to kill the Ladin family, who wouldn't he dare to kill in the camp? Ladin family took advantage of the crowd's thoughts and organized this operation. They wanted to unite the guards in the camp to pressure the higher-ups. Pressure Wu Yan. They don't believe that Wu Yan would just kill everyone in the camp. It's hard to argue with the masses. Small fries have their uses. When everyone in the camp started to reject Wu Yan and co., it means that they want to stay in the camp for as long as possible. That was also impossible. Knowing this, Pelosi felt troubled and Marcus gloated over their misfortune. If Wu Yan and co. were to be kicked out of the camp, he would be the happiest person to be the one who would feel the most joy. However, they had forgotten about it. There's no need for Wu Yan and his group to stay in the camp. If it weren't for the Misaka sisters, Wu Yan would have left with the group of girls. Who wants to stay? The Misaka sisters hunted for resources in the giant beast's forest every day. Killing demonic beasts gave Wu Yan quite a bit of EXP. However, those EXP are nothing compared to the treasures inside the ring of gold. Every member of the party is tier 8 and above, it's just a bland meal for them. It would be a pity to abandon them. Besides, if Wu Yan really wanted the resources and experience from killing magical beasts in the Behemoth Forest, he didn't have to stay here. There was more than one entrance to the Behemoth Forest. He believed that the camps of the Baruba and Fea empires would be there. They should be happy to accept his group's arrival. It could only be said that the Ladin family's wishful thinking had worked. But in the end, a small problem was still a small problem. Of course, it was a big problem for Pelosi and Marcus. Hearing the responses around them, how could the two of them not understand the nature of the Ladin family's operation this time? The two of them could only curse in their hearts. If you want to chase them away, go ahead and do it yourselves. Do you think we have the ability to chase away that hot potato? In the end, they were just implicated. Pelosi and Marcus were in a difficult position. On one hand, they had to control the commotion this time. But in order to control the commotion, they had to chase Wu Yan and his group away. On the other hand, Wu Yan and his group were not that easy to chase away. If they were easy to chase away, Marcus would have gone to them a long time ago. Riding a tiger, it's hard to get off, it's really hard to get off. Just as the two of them were at their wits' end, the commotion around them grew bigger and bigger, and even some of the onlookers joined in the protest. All of a sudden, a team in heavy armor barged into the crowd and suppressed all the noise. They even formed a circle and surrounded the entire Ladin family's garrison in the middle. The garrisons of the Ladin family were all shocked. They were surrounded by this team, and couldn't react in time. Pelosi and Marcus, on the other hand, were startled when they saw the situation. That's... Pelosi looked at the team in surprise and said with uncertainty, "Imperial Guards? Why are they here?" Marcus furrowed his brows. Aren't the Imperial Guards in charge of searching for the Beast King? Aren't they not restricted by the camp? Yes, the guards sent by the Ailu Empire's royal family were tasked with searching for the Beast King. Even though they were stationed in the camp, they weren't under Pelosi's command. Instead, they were directly under the Ailu Empire's emperor. Normally, due to the task of searching for the Beast King, it's hard for anyone to meet the Ailu Empire's imperial guards. But now, they're all gathered here. The sudden change caused the surrounding crowd to fall silent. They looked at each other as they watched the change in the middle of the field. Just like the people from the Ladin family, they did not react for a long time. At this moment, a figure flew over from the other side of the sky and landed on the top of a tent in an instant. Seeing that figure, Pelosi and Marcus were stunned, and then their faces abruptly changed. Old Patriarch! Pelosi shouted in surprise. Thunder! Thunder King! Marcus had a bewildered look on his face. The newcomer is the Lei Wang. The Thunder King's elderly face contained a trace of dignity. He stood with his hands behind his back, standing at a high spot. The corners of his eyes, which were filled with wrinkles, opened slightly. His eyes swept across everyone present like lightning. All the guards who met the Thunder King's gaze lowered their heads in pain, their hearts filled with shock. The aura of a Tier 9 warrior. So powerful. Gathering to cause trouble? It was a soft sentence, but it was like a sharp sound that pierced through one's eardrums, causing everyone's ears to hurt. The Thunder Sovereign's face was cold as he said, "Who gave you this right?" Silence, a deathly silence. Do you know how many cities in Ailu Empire are waiting for you to provide them with resources? Do you know how much damage the camp will suffer? Do you know how much damage your families will suffer? Do you know how much damage your families will suffer? Everyone present was slightly taken aback. Immediately after, they lowered their heads in shame and did not say anything else. Even the guards from the Ladin family gritted their teeth and lowered their heads. The loud and colorful demonstration just now was completely suppressed by the Thunder King with just a few words. Seeing everyone lowering their heads, the Lei Wang's expression softened. In a flash, he landed on the ground. All of you, go back. Do what you need to do. Someone else will take care of the rest. Upon hearing that, the crowd immediately dispersed and returned to their posts and jobs. The people from the Ladin family also ran away with their tails between their legs. They couldn't ignore the words of a Tier 9 warrior. At the sight of this, Pelosi heaved a huge sigh of relief. Together with Marcus, whose head was lowered and whose expression could not be seen, he walked up to the Thunder Monarch. He opened his mouth, but just as he was about to say something, the Thunder Monarch extended his hand and interrupted him. "Where is that little guy?" Pelosi and Marcus tilted their heads in confusion. By the time they realized who the little fellow the Thunder King was talking about was, Pelosi hastily spoke. "Old Patriarch, Wu Yan should be at the border of the camp." The Lei Wang nodded and waved his hand. "You two can go back as well." Hearing the Lei Wang's words, the two of them bowed. "Yes." Chapter 835. While the camp is in an uproar, Wu Yan is enjoying a cup of black tea in his own tent. He looked like he's taking a warm bath. The girls around him felt very comfortable looking at him. However, although they felt comfortable inside, they didn't seem to be in a good mood. Instead, they looked a bit annoyed by this scene. "Come, little Yen." Shokuhu Misaki sat beside Wu Yen with a sweet smile on her face. She took a small piece of food from her plate and delivered it to Wu Yan's mouth like a little girl in love. "Ah. Ah." Wu Yan took a bite and chewed with a satisfied expression on his face. With Shokuhu Misaki serving him, he's enjoying himself more than a member of the royal family. This scene has been going on since Wu Yan woke up this morning. Just like that, the two of them sat in the huge tent, doing something that only the most intimate of couples would do while releasing flashbangs as if there was no one else around. The other girls originally planned to keep their eyes down and obediently eat their breakfast. However, even if they could control their eyes, they couldn't control their ears. Finally, after the N+1 feeding session, someone couldn't hold it in any longer and exploded. Hey, you guys. Mikoto closed her eyes and her eyebrows twitched. Don't you know that this will affect others? Yeah. Toka, who had been holding back for a long time, pouted her lips and glared at Shokuhu Misaki. The breakfast was supposed to be delicious, but now it's tasteless because of you. Shokuhu Misaki blinked her eyes and a bright smile appeared on her face. Well, I can't help it. After all, Xiao Yan's actions last night were very touching. In order to express his gratitude, shouldn't he do this? There are many ways to thank someone. Mikoto grumbled. Why do you have to do it this way? Isn't this normal? Shokuhu Misaki pointed at her lips with a finger. Isn't this how couples do things? When the word couple entered the girls' ears, they couldn't help but waver. They looked at the food in front of them and thought about taking Shokuhu Misaki's place. Their faces turned red. That's true. Mikoto hesitated for a moment, but she still said it in exasperation. But it's still very, very unpleasant. Can't you do it in a different way? Is that so? Shokuhu Misaki tilted her head. She seemed to have thought of something and her face blushed a little. She acted like a little girl and stole a glance at Wu Yan. Then. Little Yen, I'll give you your reward tonight. Pfft. Wu Yan lost his cool and spat out everything in his mouth. The veins on the surrounding girls' foreheads popped out. In addition to Kurumi, who had a seductive smile on her face, Toka, who didn't know what was going on, and Flandre-chan and Yoshino, who were still in a daze, the other girls' pretty faces were all red. You woman. Sparks flashed across Mikoto's forehead as she tried to suppress her anger. You must have done it on purpose. There's nothing bad about it. Kurumi covered her mouth and chuckled. The corner of her mouth raised into an incomparably evil arc. Her cheeks were red and her eyes were misty. I don't even have the chance to do it. When will Aotsusama make a scene for me? Hey. Kotori squinted her eyes and looked at Kurumi speechlessly. I knew it, you're the most dangerous one. Anyway. Mikoto stood up and yelled at Shokuhu Misaki. Stop what you're doing. All right. Shokuhu Misaki pursed her lips and placed the thing in her hand on the table. Mikoto wasn't the only one who felt the same way. Even Chiju, Kotori, Toka and the others breathed a sigh of relief. Shokuhu Misaki's flashbangs put a lot of pressure on them. Unfortunately, right after they breathed a sigh of relief, Shokuhu Misaki's next sentence made them realize that they were too sweet. Little Yen, I'll make it up to you tonight. Hinajaku and Kotori raised their hands and covered their foreheads. They couldn't bear to watch anymore. Mikoto's body was crackling with electricity. Her body was trembling. Obviously, she couldn't take it anymore. You. Just as Mikoto was about to give Shokuhu Misaki a bento, an old voice with a bitter smile came from the tent. The campsite is about to be turned upside down because of you two, and here you are flirting with each other. I really don't know what to say about you two. The noisy crowd was startled and quickly turned their heads to look at the source of the sound, which was the entrance of the tent. There, the Thunder King was looking at them with a helpless expression. He looked like he wanted to say something but was unable to express it, looking extremely conflicted. Grandpa Lei Wang. Wu Yan stood up in shock. Why are you here? Why am I here? I'm here to watch a good show. Lei Wang grumbled at Wu Yan. You caused such a big ruckus that His Majesty almost lost his throne. If I didn't show up, who knows what kind of ruckus you guys would have caused in this camp. Wu Yan scratched his face awkwardly and mumbled. Is it that serious? What? What do you think? Lei Wang rolled his eyes. The person in charge of the campsite, the second in command of the Ladin clan, one of the 3 major clans. He was a pinnacle tier 8 and you killed him just like that. Tell me, is it serious? Yes. It does sound serious. Wu Yan pursed his lips and looked at Lei Wang. But if I had to choose again, I would still kill him. That's right. Let's not talk about one more time, even if it happens 1,000 times, 10,000 times, Wu Yan wouldn't show any mercy. It wasn't just because the girls were his reverse scale. It was also to tell the world that anyone who dares to touch the people around him must be prepared to die. The girls behind Wu Yan felt a warm feeling in their hearts. Shokuhu Misaki couldn't help but smile sweetly. Lei Wang paused and laughed bitterly. You. Lei Wang sighed and his expression turned serious. He asked Wu Yan in a serious tone. Little guy, I have a question for you. Did you kill Andrew because he wanted to hurt your little girlfriend? Master. Grandpa Lei Wang. Wu Yan shook his head helplessly. We haven't known each other for long, but do you think I'm the kind of person who would kill the innocent? Yes. If I thought you were like that, I wouldn't have come here. The Thunder Emperor snorted coldly without hesitation. I'm just making sure. Don't worry, as long as you're telling the truth, I can guarantee with my life that no one will dare do anything to you. Wu Yan and the girls looked at each other and smiled. Grandpa Lei Wang, don't worry. Wu Yan grinned, his wine-colored eyes flashed with a strange glint. If you want to touch me, you should at least consider your own strength. Oh. Lei Wang looked at Wu Yan in shock before he guffawed. I almost forgot. You little brat, you can even casually kill a peak rank 8 powerhouse. Wu Yan chuckled before his expression changed. He took a step forward and stood in front of Lei Wang. Grandpa Lei Wang, I have something to tell you. Lei Wang retracted his smile when he saw Wu Yan's serious expression. Looking at you, it seems like it's something important, not really, just a suspicion. Wu Yan whispered something into Lei Wang's ear. Lei Wang listened quietly and his expression changed after a while. Shock, anger, suspicion, all sorts of emotions flashed across Lei Wang's face. In the end, he nodded at Wu Yan and did not say anything else. The girls didn't say anything, they seemed to know what was going on. Chapter 836. Late at night, after a day of activity, every guard in the camp seems to be tired. They all went to bed early and are now sound asleep. In the dark of the night, the camp is dotted with flames. That is the sign of a bonfire burning. In the forest of tents, there is a bonfire burning slowly at regular intervals so that the vision here is not too dark. The night watch patrol team passed by one bonfire after another. However, they seem to be like the guards who are sound asleep. After the day's events, they are slightly exhausted. Even when they are on night watch, they can't hide their tiredness. They yawned and were listless. All of a sudden, the entire camp's vigilance was relaxed under such circumstances. When the night is at its darkest, outside of a large tent in the center of the camp, a gentle breeze blew in and enveloped the area. Almost at the same time, a blurry figure flew out of the tent at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, it flashed into the darkness where the light of the bonfire can't reach. The surrounding patrols only felt a gust of wind blow past their cheeks. After that, they didn't feel anything and continued to patrol. They didn't know that beside them, in the darkness, a pair of cold eyes were scanning the area, observing the situation. Under the cover of the night, the figure flashed through the blind spots of the patrols. Every time he stopped, he would arrive at a place where the light of the bonfire couldn't reach and where the patrols passed by just a second ago. He is very well hidden. Looking at his performance, even if he didn't go through professional training, he must be doing these kinds of sneaky things often. The bright moon in the sky silently descended. Time passed slowly. After a dazzling flight, the figure finally arrived at the edge of the camp. Hiding from the eyes of the night watchers, he left the camp in a flash. He rushed towards the direction of the behemoth forest. After leaving the camp, the movement of his figure began to become unscrupulous. His movement was no longer based on caution, but on speed. Under the cover of an icy blue douchi, he elongated his figure at an incomparably fast speed. He directly entered the behemoth forest. After confirming a direction, he ignored the obstructing trees and skillfully began his journey. At night, the behemoth forest was much darker than the campsite. It was so dark that one could not even see one's own fingers. The moonlight could not penetrate the thick trees and shine into the behemoth forest. In the behemoth forest, it was obvious that no one would light a bonfire or a magic lamp. In the entire behemoth forest, only the eyes of some magical beasts were emitting a green or red light. Other than that, there was no light at all. Ignoring the surrounding demonic beasts, his figure flew forward at the fastest speed possible. Looking at his proficient appearance, this wasn't the first time he had walked this path. With this kind of speed, he didn't know how long it took for him to reach the end of the trees. In front of him, an open space appeared in front of him. Seeing this empty space, the eyes of the figure hidden in the darkness narrowed slightly. Clearly, this empty space was his destination. However, not only was there not the slightest bit of joy from reaching their destination in his eyes, it was instead filled with indescribable caution and fear. His fearful expression caused his flying figure to slow down quite a bit. However, after a flash, his figure once again increased his speed. He continued to fly forward until he passed through the forest. Standing in the open space, the moonlight lost its object and shined on the figure, exposing his full appearance to the air. Impressively, it was Marcus. Marcus raised his head and looked forward. At the end of the open space, there was a barren mountain. There was not a single blade of grass growing on the barren mountain, giving it a lifeless appearance. In the middle of the mountain, there was a very well hidden and not easy to attract attention to, there was a cave. The cave was small and the entrance was small. However, upon closer inspection, the inside was very spacious, at least 100 meters in diameter. Looking at the pitch-black cave entrance, Marcus gradually lowered his head and lost his mind. His memories returned to that day. That was not long after the Beast King's existence was confirmed. In order to build a camp that could resist the invasion of magical beasts, Marcus, Pelosi, and Andrew were ordered by their respective patriarchs to bring a group of people to the behemoth forest. Just like the other two empires, they built a camp. After the establishment of the camp, Marcus was the first to understand the potential value of the camp. He wanted to fish in troubled waters and collect the resources that the people in the camp worked hard to hunt every day. Most of them would be turned over to his family, while a small portion would be pocketed by him to enrich his own pockets. Originally, everything was going well. However, during a coincidental trip, he and Andrew coincidentally discovered this barren mountain in the behemoth forest. They also discovered this strange cave. This strange cave that had never been discovered before naturally attracted the attention of the two. Relying on their skills and courage, the two peak 8th rank powerhouses did not hesitate and directly entered the cave. Who knew that after entering, there would be nothing inside, only an empty space. Seeing this, Marcus and Andrew looked at each other, a little disappointed. After all, in the behemoth forest, there might be some hidden treasures. The two entered the cave with this thought in mind. There was nothing wrong with this idea. Unfortunately, they were too blinded by greed. It was this greed that caused them to fall into eternal damnation. The two thought that there was nothing in the cave, but suddenly, they discovered a figure in the deepest part of the cave. The two were shocked. They did not expect that there would be traces of someone in such a place. At this time, the figure also discovered them. Noticing Marcus and Andrew, the figure hastily attacked without saying a word. The two of them were scared out of their wits as soon as they saw the two of them. They could not even resist. The two peak 8th rank powerhouses were instantly defeated and subdued by the figure. Marcus and Andrew were terrified. They thought that they were going to die, but they didn't expect that when they closed their eyes and waited for death, the other party didn't kill them. Instead, he asked them if they were willing to be his slaves. People under the eaves have no choice but to lower their heads. In this situation, the two did not dare to refuse. They quickly nodded and agreed, but in their hearts, they did not have the slightest intention of submitting. They started to fantasize about escaping. Unfortunately, their wishful thinking was completely destroyed by the figure's next move. It wasn't anything strange or shocking. The other party just stuffed two strange colored insects into their stomachs. It was these two insects that caused Marcus and Andrew to lose the ability to resist. Because these two insects seemed to be able to live in a person's body and listen to the other's orders. When the other ordered the insects to bite, the insects would bite, and the target was their internal organs. Without a doubt, the two were once again scared out of their wits. They repeatedly said that they would not betray their master's orders and would die for their master. Since those two insects can bite their internal organs, it would only take a few minutes for them to completely devour their internal organs and crawl out of their bodies. Under the threat of life and death, no matter how unwilling the two were, they could only acknowledge the other as their master and work for him. However, the strange thing was that the other party did not make things difficult for the two of them, nor did he ask them to do anything earth-shattering. He only asked them to send a few humans to him every day, and they must have cultivated before. As for their rank, the other party did not have any requirements. Such a strange order. Of course, Marcus and Andrew were full of doubts, but they didn't dare to ask anything and respectfully agreed. This was the cause of everything. Because of this, Marcus and Andrew had the idea of sending the low-ranked guards to this place. As for what happened to those people, the two had no idea. Chapter 837. Looking at the pitch-black hole in front of him that seemed to represent the abyss, Marcus smiled bitterly. Back then, there were two of them, but now, he was the only one left. Even with Marcus's temperament, he couldn't help but feel a burst of sorrow, accompanied by a strong sense of sympathy. Who knew if he wouldn't be able to come the next time? Marcus forcefully shook his head as if he wanted to get rid of the thought that made his heart tremble. He took a deep breath of the cold night air and calmed the complicated emotions in his heart. He lifted his foot and walked into the cave before him. The surrounding light rapidly dimmed at a speed visible to the naked eye. The surrounding atmosphere became deathly silent and frightening. Even the temperature seemed to have dropped a little. Marcus was already used to all of this. He expressionlessly walked inside until he reached the end of the cave. Marcus's footsteps suddenly stopped. The tall rock wall was 10 meters in front of him. The surrounding area was very wide. Aside from rocks, there was nothing else. It looked like an ordinary cave. But Marcus's eyes were fixed on the figure in front of him, in other words, the figure in the shadow of the rock wall. As usual, when Marcus saw this figure, his pupils couldn't help but tremble. Then, he hurriedly knelt on the ground and lowered his head. "Master!" The echo of the shout spread throughout the entire cave. It maintained this state for more than 10 seconds before the echo slowly dissipated. However, the figure didn't have the slightest intention to pay attention to Marcus. There was still no movement. Marcus didn't say anything. He lowered his head and quietly waited. Until a certain moment, the figure gradually swayed. It seemed to be moving. Accompanying it was a calm and indifferent voice. "Why are you empty-handed?" A simple question directly swayed into Marcus's heart. It caused a trace of fear to appear on his face. He could feel that as these words were spoken, a monstrous pressure descended from the sky and mercilessly pressed down on his body. His shoulders fiercely sank. His bones also made a caw-caw sound of friction. It was as if the pressure wanted to crush Marcus into pieces. The ice-attributed chi within his body unexpectedly stopped circulating. Although it wasn't the first time Marcus had faced such a situation, cold sweat still trickled down Marcus's back in fright. "Moss. Master," Marcus said with a hoarse voice. Today, there was a situation in the camp. Situation? The silhouette repeated his words calmly. The originally indifferent voice became even colder. "The first time, someone interfered. Last time, that trash died. What is it this time?" Marcus's face paled. He couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Although the figure's voice was no different from before, Marcus could clearly feel the anger contained within. According to the situation, if he doesn't give a good explanation, he won't be able to escape death. One wrong word and he will die. This is the style of the master he spoke of. Even if he was still useful to him. But if he angered the other party, Marcus knew that the other party wouldn't show any mercy. Master. Marcus could only grit his teeth and whisper. Today, a strong person from the council came to the camp. A Tier 9 fighter. A Tier 9 fighter? The figure's voice paused. Then he said with slight dissatisfaction. Didn't you say that there are no Tier 9 fighters in the camp? The strongest ones are the few of you. Master, that Tier 9 fighter is here for another person. He's here for another person. Marcus replied respectfully. Normally, a Type 9 expert would not appear in the camp. However, that Type 9 expert has a good relationship with the person who killed Andrew. He is here for this matter as well. The one who killed Andrew. Marcus didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that his master seemed to care a lot about the one who killed Andrew, Wu Yan. You're talking about the one called Wu Yan, right? The figure's voice turned cold again. What does that have to do with you coming here empty-handed? Master. Marcus bitterly clicked his tongue. With that rank 9 powerhouse around, this subordinate doesn't dare to act rashly. He's a member of the board. Once he discovers something, not only this subordinate, but even you, Master, might be implicated. Hearing that, the figure went silent. The cave was deathly silent, the air seemed to be very heavy. Seeing the silhouette's silence, Marcus didn't dare to speak again. His expression changed rapidly. He didn't know what his master was thinking at this time, but from the fluctuating aura of the other party, he could see that his emotions were very unstable. After a long time, the figure opened his mouth. The words made Marcus' heart clench. Since you can't carry out my orders, what's the use of keeping you alive? Saying that, a terrifying aura burst out from the figure's body. It was like an explosion that could turn the world upside down. Unable to bear the heavy load, the entire cave began to shake. Strands of dust sprinkled down from the top of the rock wall. Marcus seemed to have suffered a severe blow. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell straight to the ground. He pressed his hand on his chest and looked at the changes in the cave. His face was filled with shock. Master. Master, please spare my life. Marcus cried out in fear. Please give me another chance, Master. Next time. This subordinate will complete the mission Master gave me. Next time? The figure laughed coldly. This is already the 3rd chance I've given you, Master. It's this subordinate's fault. But it's all because of that Wu Yan. Marcus shouted himself hoarse. If it wasn't for Wu Yan, this subordinate would have completed the mission. Master, please give this subordinate another chance. Let this subordinate eliminate Wu Yan. Eliminate Wu Yan? The imposing aura of the figure leaked out and slowly retracted. Seeing this, Marcus finally heaved a sigh of relief and got up from the ground. Ignoring his injuries, he knelt on the ground again. Yes, Master. The reason Andrew and I couldn't complete the mission Master's mission is because of this Wu Yan. If it wasn't for him, since you understand this, then why did you keep him alive all this time? The figure said indifferently. Marcus smiled bitterly. Master, it's not that this subordinate didn't want to kill him, but there's a demigod behind him. This subordinate didn't dare to, the demigod behind Wu Yan. To Marcus' surprise, when he heard his words, his figure trembled violently, and his voice sank. Is that demigod also in the camp? No, that's not it. Although Marcus did not know why the figure had such a big reaction, he still replied, that demigod powerhouse is not in the camp. Not here? The figure murmured, there's a trace of unknown emotion in his voice. He laughed coldly. If that's the case, go kill Wu Yan. That demigod, didn't you say that demigod isn't here? The figure glanced at him. That demigod isn't here. Marcus pulled a long face. But Wu Yan has 2 Tier 9 powerhouses by his side, that's something you need to deal with. The figure's eyes flashed sharply. Remember. This is the last chance I'm giving you. If you're still as useless this time, don't blame me, yes. Yes. Marcus was terrified, he had no choice but to agree. This subordinate will find a way to kill Wu Yan when I return to the camp. The figure didn't make things difficult for him after hearing Marcus's declaration. He nodded faintly, but he didn't know how much pain Marcus was in. After all, he had no confidence in killing Wu Yan. However, in the next moment, a voice rang out, dispelling all the thoughts in the hearts of the two people present. There's no need to return to the camp. Chapter 838. There's no need to return to the camp. The sudden voice caused both Marcus and the figure's pupils to shrink at the same time. The figure's body instantly emitted a ferocious killing intent, almost causing Marcus to fall to the ground. Who is it? The roar carrying killing intent swept out in all directions like a shockwave, causing a sharp explosion. Marcus let out a miserable shriek and covered his ears. His entire face paled, and his eyes flickered with shock and disbelief. Although he knew his master was very strong, he did not expect him to be this strong. This is no longer a strength that a 9th-rank powerhouse can possess. Could it be? Just as Marcus was still unable to adapt to his own thoughts, a rain-like flash flickered in an open space not far in front of him in the cave. The figure and Marcus turned around abruptly and stared at the center of the flash. Then, in the next moment, two figures emerged from the flash and appeared before their eyes. Seeing these two figures, the figure and Marcus' expression changed at the same time. The difference was that the figure's face sank, while Marcus took 2 steps back in horror. He pointed a trembling finger at the two figures and shook his head vigorously, as if he did not dare to believe his eyes. Marcus. An old voice filled with anger sounded. I did not expect it to really be you. Lei Wang. Marcus finally had no choice but to believe his eyes. However, he could not accept this and shouted, "Why are you here?" Why? Lei Wang sneered, looking at Marcus as if he was looking at a dead man. I also want to know why are you here? I. A drop of sweat flowed down Marcus' forehead. For a moment, he did not know what to say. He could only stand there and step back with a helpless expression. Seeing Marcus like this, Lei Wang's cold face could not help but reveal a trace of sorrow. Originally, when the little guy told me you had a problem, I did not believe him. But I did not expect that you would really do something detrimental to the camp. Little fellow. Marcus was stunned. He immediately turned his head and looked at the other figure standing beside the Thunder King. His face was ferocious as he roared wildly. Wu Yan, she heard Marcus' crazy roar. Wu Yan didn't even look at him. His wine-red eyes stared straight at the figure in the dark corner. He didn't put Marcus in his eyes at all. Bastard. Marcus was furious. You again. You again. Why do you have to get in my way every time, me? Wu Yan glanced at him, shook his head and laughed. No, you're wrong. The one who made you reveal your tale wasn't me, but yourself. I myself, oh? Have you forgotten? Wu Yan smirked as he looked at the stunned Marcus. On the night I killed Andrew, didn't you say something like that? A peak of the 8th step sneaked into a place where someone who is not even at the high 8th step is located. Furthermore, he even used such a method of assassination, yet he did not cause any harm to that person. Marcus clenched his fists. So what? Haven't you noticed? He tilted his head. Wu Yan looked at Marcus with pity in his eyes. Both Xiaoqi and I only said that Andrew broke into the tent and wanted to kill Xiaoqi. We never said that Andrew assassinated her. Then, why did you directly say that Andrew used assassinations to assassinate him? Wu Yan chuckled. His voice was unusually cold. Unless you knew from the start that Andrew wanted to kill Xiaoqi. How could this be? Marcus' mouth trembled. He looked at the Thunder King, who was also looking at him with pity. The last nerve in his brain snapped. He knelt on the ground, his face ashen. Wu Yan sighed when he saw this. I only suspected that you were in cahoots with Andrew to kill Xiaoqi. I didn't expect you to have such an inside story. He looked forward. Looking at the figure in the shadows, Wu Yan's expression turned serious. What's even more unexpected is that the person standing behind Marcus is actually you. The Beast King. The air. It froze. What did you say? The Thunder King cried out. You said he's the Beast King? Wu Yan didn't answer, he just stared at the silent figure in the shadows. It's as if he's staring back at him. Along with the silence between the two, the scene became silent as well. An indescribable sense of oppression permeated the air. Suddenly, a figure stood up from the ground and slowly walked out from the shadows. A handsome and calm face appeared in everyone's eyes. It was the Beast King himself. It's not that I didn't expect to be discovered by humans one day. The Beast King said in a daze. But I didn't expect you to be the one to discover me. Wu Yan's eyes were serious, but he mocked the Beast King. What? You're a demigod, aren't you afraid of a kid who hasn't even reached tier 9? Afraid? The Beast King pondered over this word for a while before laughing out loud. From the moment I was born in this world until now, I have never experienced the feeling of fear. His eyes looked at Wu Yan like arrows. The Beast King's smile was mocking. Even if Yakumo Yukari can kill me, she can't make me afraid. Is that so? Wu Yan snickered without holding back. Coming from you, the one who ran away with your tail between your legs, it doesn't sound convincing at all. Wu Yan's mocking did not infuriate the Beast King. Instead, it startled the Thunder Sovereign and Marcus. That's a demigod. How dare he mock the Beast King? Is he not afraid of death? Ran away? The Beast King shook his head. He did not show any signs of anger. It's just a stopgap measure. You're even talking about expedient measures? Wu Yan flinched and then he laughed. You're becoming more and more like a human. The Beast King's expression darkened as he said angrily. You're still as sharp-tongued as ever. Same here. Wu Yan's expression turned cold. I've always remembered the care you gave us back then. This time, the Beast King was surprised and laughed out loud. What? Are you trying to take revenge? As if amused by his own words, the Beast King let out a series of thunderous laughter, causing the Thunder Lord and Marcus' eardrums to hurt. Without Yakumo Yukari, can you do it? As soon as he finished speaking, the Beast King's terrifying aura once again surged out from his body, filling every corner of the cave. A strong gust of wind was also stirred up, blowing in all directions, hitting the walls of the cave, as well as the bodies of the other 3 people present. Wu Yan groaned and took a step back. His wine-red eyes suddenly turned golden. The aura of a true ancestor erupted and collided with the Beast King's aura. Lei Wang roared and his body burned with magic to block the Beast King's aura. However, Marcus was not so lucky. He did not have Wu Yan's powerful bloodline to support him, nor did he have the strength of a 9th-tier Thunder King. Under the full force of the Beast King's aura, he had already fainted on the ground. Grandpa Thunder King! Wu Yan shouted. Leave this place first. What? Lei Wang exclaimed. Little guy, you're not joking with me, are you? Don't worry. Wu Yan grinned. He stared at the Beast King without a trace of fear in his eyes. I won't do something I'm not confident in. Lei Wang's expression turned gloomy. He looked at the Beast King, then at Wu Yan. He clenched his teeth and channeled his magic power to envelop himself and Marcus, who was still on the ground. Little guy. Lei Wang lowered his head and growled. Don't die. Wu Yan nodded indifferently. Lei Wang smiled bitterly and did not delay any longer. He disappeared with Marcus. Only the 2 of them were left. Chapter 839. Pressure invisible to the naked eye collided with each other, and the surrounding space emitted creaking sounds like wood being twisted. The ground beneath the feet of the 2 people facing each other in the distance had already started to crack inch by inch. Before the fight had even started, the cave was already showing signs of not being able to hold on. Hua. The Beast King narrowed his eyes as he looked at Wu Yan, who seemed to be able to resist his full aura. You're obviously very weak, but your aura is comparable to mine. If you were at the same level as me. No, if you were only one level lower than me, I wouldn't even have a chance of winning. The Beast King raised an eyebrow with interest. You're neither human nor demonic beast. I'm really curious as to what kind of existence you are. The Beast King's tone was relaxed when he said that. That was only natural. In front of a demigod like him, a peak tier 8 was nothing but an ant. Wu Yan could clearly sense the Beast King's relaxed tone. How could he not know that the Beast King was looking down on him? But now that Lei Wang and the others had left, Wu Yan no longer had anything to worry about. His tone was relaxed as well. Like you said, I'm curious. But you're not human. Wu Yan glanced at the Beast King lazily. Why didn't you stop them? The Beast King paused for a moment before he understood what Wu Yan meant. He looked deeply at Wu Yan and said, compared to them, I'm more interested in you, that's it? Wu Yan frowned. Aren't you afraid of being exposed? Hearing that, the Beast King's eyes flashed. The aura around him thickened. It doesn't matter if I'm exposed or not. The Beast King closed his eyes and said with an indescribable emotion, Yakumo Yukari's injuries are almost fully healed. There's no need to continue hiding. Hearing the Beast King's words, Wu Yan remembered that the Beast King was hiding because Yukari had injured him. Fully healed? Wu Yan's eyes narrowed. He waved his hand and said, Impossible. Z told me about the injuries she left on your body. It would take at least a year or so for him to recover. It's impossible for your injuries to heal so quickly. This is all thanks to those two trash. The Beast King licked his lips as if he had thought of something. Without the food they brought over, how could I have recovered so quickly? Wu Yan's pupils shrank. Could it be that those missing low-level guards? He saw Wu Yan's shocked expression. The Beast King said happily, That's right. Although they were just a bunch of ants. But it's still pretty useful. Wu Yan was silent, he lowered his head. The bangs on his forehead covered half of his face, making it impossible for the Beast King to see his current expression. However, the Beast King's heart suddenly tightened. A sense of foreboding welled up in his heart. Wisps of inexplicable blood energy suddenly appeared around Wu Yan's body. They swirled around him like a whirlwind. The Beast King was shocked to discover that his sense of foreboding had turned into a sense of crisis. This is impossible. While the Beast King was still in shock, Wu Yan finally raised his head. His golden eyes shone with a ferocious light. That's good too. Wu Yan's ethereal voice came out of his mouth. When we fight, we don't have to worry about anything. As soon as he finished speaking, thump thump, a heartbeat sounded from Wu Yan's body. Almost at the same time, the blood energy around him retracted and shot toward Wu Yan's chest. In a moment, it had completely melted into his chest. The space suddenly darkened. Third red jade. Activate. A sea of blood energy rose from Wu Yan's chest and wrapped around Wu Yan's body. His entire body was dyed red. A wave of air blew toward the Beast King. The Beast King's expression changed. He raised his hands to resist the wave of air. There was some fear in his heart. What the hell is going on? In front of him, Wu Yan's body trembled. A blood-red light, deeper than any blood energy, flashed from his chest and illuminated a small shadow. One could vaguely see that the small shadow was a red jade engraving. Red jade mode. Activate. All the blood energy in his body rushed back into Wu Yan's body as if it had never appeared. However, Wu Yan's aura skyrocketed. Along with it, a force flowed into Wu Yan's body. Under the influence of this force, Wu Yan's peak rank 8 strength began to rise at an unimaginable speed. Peak rank 8. Rank 9. Beginner rank 9. Intermediate rank 9. Advanced rank 9. Peak rank 9. No. It still hasn't stopped. Impossible. The Beast King finally let out a roar of disbelief. His eyes were filled with shock. In just a few seconds, Wu Yan's aura had reached the demigod rank. It had surpassed the Beast King's aura at his peak. Even as strong as the Beast King was, he couldn't help but tremble. It wasn't just because Wu Yan's rank had skyrocketed to the demigod rank. More importantly, the Beast King felt a familiar aura from Wu Yan's body. It was the aura of the person who had seriously injured him and reduced him to this state. Yakumo Yukari. Yakumo Yukari. The Beast King clenched his fists. He looked at Wu Yan, whose aura was still skyrocketing. His expression hardened. Although I don't know what you've done, I won't let you continue. The Beast King stomped hard on the ground, breaking the solid rock beneath his feet. His body turned into a flash of black light and shot forward. He flashed in front of Wu Yan like a storm. Go to hell. Sharp nails popped out from his fingers. His hand formed into a claw. The Beast King growled. His eyes widened as he swung his claw at Wu Yan's neck. A sharp sound rang out. The claw carried unimaginable power as it pierced through space. It went straight for Wu Yan's throat. Wherever the claw passed, it caused ripples in the air. It was just like when the gate of Babylon was opened. If this claw hit, then even a demigod would die without a doubt. Unfortunately, Wu Yan wasn't human. He was a vampire with unlimited regenerative abilities. Moreover, he wouldn't be hit by the Beast King. Just as the Beast King's claw was about to pierce Wu Yan's throat, a hand reached out from below and grabbed the Beast King's wrist. Don't be hasty. A cold and indifferent voice sounded in front of the Beast King. The Beast King looked up. What he saw was no longer the golden pupils from before. Instead, it was a pair of purple crystal-like eyes. It was only then that the Beast King saw Wu Yan's full appearance. Not only were his eyes purple, even his black hair had turned golden. It even reached his waist. Long blonde hair, purple pupils, he looked exactly like Yakumo Yukari. Ha! The Beast King's expression changed. He roared and struggled to break free from Wu Yan's grip. He jumped back reflexively to put some distance between himself and Wu Yan. However, his eyes were fixed on him. His eyes were unprecedentedly serious. His relaxed demeanor had completely disappeared. Oh! Seeing the Beast King's reaction, Wu Yan opened his mouth in shock. Looks like you're really afraid of Yukari, you. The Beast King's expression changed rapidly. His face was filled with bewilderment. What the hell did you do? What did I do? Wu Yan tilted his body and he replied nonchalantly. It's nothing, I just borrowed someone else's power for a bit. Borrowed someone else's power? The Beast King gritted his teeth. Yakumo Yukari? Wu Yan looked at the Beast King's gloomy expression. He didn't answer. He lowered his head and looked at his hands and the golden hair that reached his waist. His purple eyes revealed a trace of nostalgia. This is Yukari's power? So strong, Wu Yan clenched his fists, a devilish smile appeared on his face. At this moment, Yakumo Yukari's figure overlapped with Wu Yan's. He raised his head and looked at the Beast King, who was on high alert. Alright, let's get started. After all, I don't have much time in this state. Chapter 840. The Beast King has more or less calmed down. He is a demigod after all. Even if he is a demigod, his mental fortitude is not weak. He calmed himself down and took a deep breath. He doesn't know how Wu Yan managed to borrow Yakumo Yukari's power, but with her power, he is no longer an ant he can kill. If he doesn't go all out, death is not impossible. I must go all out. Clap. The Beast King clasped his hands together, and a terrifying aura surged out from his body. Roar! The Beast King didn't open its mouth, but the roar of the beasts reverberated throughout the cave. It was as if tens of thousands of lions were roaring at the same time. The sound waves rippled through the air and dust as they surged towards Wu Yan with a force that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Bang 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 bang, wherever the sound wave passed, the ground was blasted apart. The sound of explosions rang out incessantly. The walls of the cave were shattered into pieces. Countless pieces of gravel were like porcelain, shattering into pieces before being crushed into powder. The might of a demigod. How terrifying! If Wu Yan was at the peak of Tier 8, he would have been crushed into powder like the pebbles. But now that he has entered Yukari's red jade mode, Wu Yan's face was expressionless. He didn't make any extra movements. He just reached out and waved his hand lightly. Dong! The 100-meter-long airwaves and dust that were raised by the oncoming sound waves suddenly froze, as if even time had stopped. Then, they trembled all over, and without any sign, they suddenly disappeared and fell silent. The Beast King sucked in a breath of cold air. Having fought Yakumo Yukari before, he knew what Wu Yan was doing. The realm of being and non-being. Wu Yan paused. Then he smiled. As expected of someone who fought Yukari before. Looks like the realm of being has left a deep impression on you. The Beast King clenched his fists. He felt bitter. How could he not remember such a terrifying ability? He was slightly shaken. The Beast King gritted his teeth. A pair of fangs protruded from his mouth. His eyes were also like those of a lizard, becoming ferocious in an instant. It was nothing more than borrowed strength. He might not be a match for the real deal, but against the imposter. I don't believe I can't beat him. Boom! It stomped its foot on the ground, causing the ground to ripple. However, it did not crack like before. Instead, it rippled like a rice cake and wriggled behind the Beast King. Bone Beast. The Beast King let out a low growl and stomped his foot once more. Several bones that were thicker than a human body suddenly grew out of the ground, forming several burly and extremely ferocious white bone beasts behind him. Roar! 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 Several bone beasts roared, as if they had been dead for a long time and had turned into white bones. Their jaws opened and closed as they roared. Go! Roar! An earth-shattering roar sounded. Under the Beast King's control, the bone beasts bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they pounced towards him. Facing so many monsters, Wu Yan's face showed no fear. With his current strength, killing these guys was as easy as blowing off dust. The Beast King thought that Wu Yan's strength was borrowed and not his own, so it was impossible for him to use it well. However, he did not expect that Wu Yan had the infinite martial training. In front of the absolute skill of mind, technique, and body, as long as it existed in Wu Yan's body, it would be maximized for him to use it. Therefore, under Yukari's red jade mode, Wu Yan's strength was comparable to Yukari's, and in terms of technique, he even surpassed Yukari. Coupled with the realm of being, the enemy in front of him was just a clown. Facing the bone beasts, Wu Yan stretched out his hand and waved it again. In the next moment, the space in front of Wu Yan suddenly split open, as if something had sliced it open. A fissure spanned a full 50 meters of space in front of Wu Yan, and with a strange sound, it collapsed. Under the Beast King's gaze, the black fissure expanded, hiding Wu Yan's body behind it. And within the fissure, there were countless creepy eyes of all sizes. As the bone beast spun, the eyes in the fissure looked forward, directly ignoring the incoming bone beasts and looking at the Beast King. Being stared at by these eyes, the Beast King felt a chill run down his spine. Go! Behind him, Wu Yan pointed a finger forward. Instantly, rays of black light shot out from the eyes in the fissure, whistling through the air like a storm, shooting towards the incoming bone beasts. Not good. The Beast King had never seen Yukari's fissure ability before, so when the raindrops of black light shot towards him, the Beast King was startled, and with a flash of green light in his eyes, he disappeared from where he stood. Just a step too late, a dozen or so rays of black light blasted the ground where the Beast King was standing, landing on empty space, and the Beast King managed to dodge them in time. But the bone beasts were not so lucky. Asterisk chi. Asterisk roar. Miserable roars accompanied the black light, and in the blink of an eye, several bone beasts were crushed into nothingness, not even leaving a bone behind. Peng. At this moment, an earth-yellow mana storm instantly erupted from an area not far in front of them. Wu Yan frowned, turning his head to look at the huge magic storm. There, the Beast King stood in the middle of the storm with a ferocious expression, faint traces of lightning flashing across his body, bringing about a series of loud rumbling sounds that made one's heart tremble. The huge magic storm was nearly 10 meters in diameter, and a vast demonic aura spread out from it. Such a demonic aura could only be possessed by a magical beast. As the king of magical beasts, the demonic aura of the Beast King was so evil that even Wu Yan could not help but have a solemn expression on his face. Such a spectacular scene was completely created by the Beast King relying on the magic within his body. It could be seen that the Beast King had a vast amount of magic in his body, and even as a true ancestor with an unparalleled amount of magic, he could not compare to it for the time being. It was obvious that the Beast King was preparing a powerful spell. A ferocious suction force was emitted from within the magic storm. Under the tearing force of the storm, the hard ground seemed to be experiencing an earthquake as cracks as thick as an arm continuously spread out. The entire cave began to tremble at this moment and collapsed one after another. Wu Yan did not move, allowing his body to be sucked in by the storm. His gaze was firmly fixed on the center of the storm, and he clenched his fist slightly, and an inexplicable force surged in his palm. Roar! Suddenly, within the rotating magic storm, a beastly figure with earthy yellow magic light suddenly shot out like an arrow, passing through the storm. A similarly earthy yellow lightning adhered to its body, directly piercing through space, and fiercely colliding with Wu Yan. The speed of the beastly figure was extremely terrifying, and in a flash, it pounced in front of Wu Yan. In a hurry, Wu Yan could not react in time. By the time he reacted, he hurriedly waved his hand, and the space in front of him distorted again, and the gap suddenly opened. Roar! The beastly figure fiercely collided with the distorted gap, and directly disappeared into the gap. The moment it collided with the gap, the lightning on the beastly figure's body suddenly surged, brushing past Wu Yan's body and shooting behind him, causing Wu Yan's long golden hair to almost be burnt. Humph! Within the magic storm, a cold snort faintly sounded, and with a flash of light, the storm rolled, and a snake completely formed by magic power shot out, directly towards Wu Yan's head. Feeling the sound of wind breaking above his head, Wu Yan's body moved slightly, and directly appeared more than 10 meters away. Chi! The snake figure trembled, and once again rushed out, like a maggot in one's bones, and directly shot towards him. Just as his body stabilized, the sound of wind breaking entered his ears again. Wu Yan frowned slightly, and immediately became a little angry. Raising his hand, a rich fluctuation emerged from the palm of his hand. Immediately, he viciously grabbed at the snake figure that was flying towards him. A grip. Bang! The world seemed to have lost its color. Chapter 841. Peng. With a muffled sound, a dazzling halo suddenly illuminated the entire space within the cave. Clang. Within the halo, another strange sound rang out. It was the crisp sound of metal clashing against metal. In front, the Beast King was in the middle of the magic storm. The halo lit up the entire storm like a light bulb, causing the Beast King to squint as he stared at the center of the halo. Although there was no way to see the situation within, the Beast King could sense the strange ripples within. That was the power of the realm. Is he using the power of the realm again? The Beast King's face was filled with a troubled expression. Then, he ruthlessly dug his sharp claws into the magic storm and slashed with all his might. For a moment, the entire magic storm stopped. Then, there was a continuous whooshing sound as the storm spun in the opposite direction at an even faster speed. Then, snake shadows formed by magic power continuously formed from the storm. They raised their heads, hissed, and shot out explosively, engulfing the center of the halo in all directions. Clang, 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 clang. The overwhelming number of snake shadows poured down like rain and rushed into the halo, causing a series of crisp sounds to ring out in the dilapidated cave. Hearing this strange sound, the Beast King knew that his attack had failed once again. His entire face darkened as hatred flashed in his eyes. His entire body shook. Within the storm, an even more majestic magic ripple spread out and fused into the spinning storm. The storm instantly expanded a little. The boundless magic that filled the skies suddenly intertwined with each other and formed a huge beast shadow. Floating in the center of the storm, the Beast King's expression was cold as he pointed his finger at the halo below and shouted coldly. Beast attack! Roar! The beast shadow raised its head and roared. As if it had a life of its own, its huge body directly turned into a beam of light. As if it had pierced through space, it appeared above the halo in a flash. Roar! In the next moment, the beast shadow flew into the halo, causing a series of ripples. Wherever it passed, the halo instantly collapsed. It was clearly light, but it shattered like glass and rushed straight into the center. Seeing this, the Beast King was overjoyed. However, just as he was about to rejoice, a beautiful jade-green halo quietly emerged from the beast figure. Then, it slowly dissipated. It was like an exquisite lotus flower that was blooming. The emerald light was entwined in it and it was breathtakingly beautiful. However, the Beast King's expression changed when he saw this beautiful scene. Under this astonishingly beautiful halo, a destructive and violent energy was leaking out. The moment the lotus blossomed, the beast shadow also charged in fiercely. It collided with the center of the lotus halo. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion resounded in the sky. The walls of the entire cave collapsed, revealing the rocks in the mountain range. A huge hole was blasted in the ceiling of the cave. If someone were to look from the outside, they would see that the center of the barren mountain that contained the cave was completely ventilated, and the entrance of the cave went straight to the top. It shone into the sky. The cave had long been reduced to ruins and completely disappeared. In the center of the ruins, a ferocious beast shadow was entangled with the emerald lotus halo. They continuously eroded each other. In the space where the two intersected, tiny pitch-black cracks began to appear. Even the space itself was collapsing. As the lotus rotated, the jade-green glow caused it to appear just like a green crystal ceramic. Traces of destructive and violent energy lingered over it. Regardless of how the beast charged, it was unable to break through the layer of dazzling light flower. Instead, as they eroded each other, the beast gradually became dimmer. The ripples in the space became more and more intense. Finally, a powerful suction force exploded from it and sucked some of the rocks and wood on the ground into the halo, shattering them into dust. The beast shadow grew dimmer and dimmer, and the demonic energy on its body also slowly dissipated. As the beast shadow gradually dimmed, the strange phenomenon in the space also slowly subsided until finally, it completely disappeared. Standing in the middle of the storm, the Beast King looked down at the dazzling light flower. Although his heart was also a little shaken, he did not show it on his face. He only clenched his fists tightly and felt a little despair in his heart. Not to mention the never-before-seen gap, the Beast King has no way of dealing with the terrifying power of the realm. In other words, he can't do anything to Wu Yan. His sharp fangs pierced through his lips and blood flowed out. Feeling the taste of blood in his mouth, the Beast King's heart was very unsettled. If he can't even defeat a fake who borrowed power, how can he take revenge when he meets Yakumo Yukari again? Just as the Beast King's heart wavered, the emerald flower floating above the ruins suddenly shot toward the Beast King, leaving a beautiful trail of light behind it. The Beast King hurriedly calmed himself down when he saw the light flower rushing towards him. He spread out his arms and a huge magic storm let out a sorrowful cry. It expanded like a light shield and wrapped around the Beast King. Bang! Just as the light barrier was formed, the light flower suddenly flashed and exploded on top of the light barrier like a bomb thrown into water. Like a magnificent firework, the berserk energy charged downwards. Circles of ripples rapidly spread over the seemingly sturdy magic energy light barrier. The speed at which the ripples spread became increasingly faster. Finally, it was unable to withstand the frightening destructive power and burst apart. The light flower rushed up and hit the center of the light barrier without mercy. Boom! With a muffled sound, the Beast King was directly sent flying, leaving behind a few afterimages in the sky. His figure flashed and dodged the halo that was pouncing towards him. By the time he stabilized himself, his figure had clearly become a little more miserable. Light smoke rose from his body. The Beast King's face was terrifyingly gloomy. With one foot in the air, he floated up. Demigods have the ability to fly on their own. The collapse of the cave gave the Beast King more space to move around. He lowered his head and looked down at the light that had yet to dissipate. His ferocious beast eyes turned vicious. "Don't you plan to come out?" The Beast King's voice was terrifyingly cold. "Then I'll beat you out." As soon as he finished speaking, a majestic magic power burst out from the Beast King's body and floated above his head like water vapor. It wrapped around his body and formed a huge bone statue. The bone statue looked like a lion and a tiger. It was completely composed of bones, but it was no longer grayish-white like before. Instead, it was black and gave off a demonic and terrifying feeling. A ferocious aura descended from the sky, causing the heaven and earth to become somewhat chaotic. His emotionless beast eyes stared at the light barrier. He raised his arm and pointed a finger at the light barrier below. Holy image technique. The bone statue trembled violently. Screech, as if it had come back to life, a sharp beastly cry rang out and reverberated in the air. It opened its huge jaws and a jet-black ray of light as large as a javelin, carrying an extremely terrifying force, came crashing down on the light barrier like a meteorite. As if it had enveloped the heaven and earth, the strange jet-black ray of light caused the light barrier to tremble slightly. Within the light barrier, Wu Yan, who had his eyes closed, suddenly felt a sense of danger. Without hesitation, his figure flashed to the back. A pitch-black crack with eyeballs opened in the void behind him and swallowed him in. Then, it closed abruptly and disappeared. Boom! Almost at the same time, the strange jet-black ray of light descended from the sky and landed heavily on the light barrier. Suddenly, a strange sizzling sound rang out from within. On the light barrier, a huge hole suddenly appeared. Around the hole, wisps of jet-black flames burned slowly, burning the entire light barrier cleanly like firewood. In mid-air, Wu Yan appeared and stared at the wisps of extremely faint jet-black flames. He was a little surprised. The strange flames, which seemed to have spread out from the depths of hell, carried a sinister and chilling aura. This was the source of the sense of danger that Wu Yan had felt earlier. Seeing Wu Yan's surprised expression, a smile finally appeared on the Beast King's face. Then, it suddenly disappeared. With a point of his finger, another jet-black ray of light shot out from the bone statue behind him. Like a black python, it shot out as fast as lightning, bringing with it a series of low sonic booms that resounded throughout the sky as it attacked Wu Yan. Chapter 842. The strange black light caused Wu Yan, who was floating in the air, to frown. His purple eyes wavered slightly. He could feel that there was an extremely terrifying force slowly working within the black light. It could be said that it was the most powerful force he had ever seen in his life. If he was hit directly by it, even with his current strength, he would be seriously injured. There was a limit to the use of the realm power. If he used the realm of being and non-being to deal with this force, it would definitely work. However, it would take a lot of time. During this time, the Beast King could take the opportunity to attack. Dodge! Under his feet, a crack flashed out. Wu Yan quickly descended and disappeared into the crack. Seeing this, the Beast King could not help but sneer. Dodge? How long can you dodge? Wu Yan, who was hiding in the crack, did not seem to hear the Beast King's mockery. He used the crack to the extreme. In the sky, cracks constantly flashed out and covered the entire sky in an instant. However, as soon as that gap appeared, the strange black light that followed directly collided with it. Black flames ignited and burned that gap into nothingness. This flame could burn space. Wu Yan, who had flashed out of the crack, was shocked. At this moment, the strange black light turned around and shot towards him. Wu Yan's face turned serious. He waved one hand. The fluctuation of the realm power appeared in his hand and went towards the black light. However, as Wu Yan expected, although the black light was fading, it was still rushing towards him. It was not that it was ineffective, but that there was not enough time. The black light flew past quickly and kept fading. However, it did not stop at all. It was still rushing towards him. Looking at the black light flying towards him, Wu Yan had a serious look on his face. Hiding like this is not the way to go, Wu Yan's mind turned quickly. He had the realm power. He could deal with this extremely unusual attack. However, it would take time to destroy it. Or perhaps, he could use the realm power. He could create an attack that was stronger than it. In the purple eyes, a thoughtful light flashed in them. Wu Yan clenched his left hand and the realm power emerged. Immediately, a gust of white flame appeared and surged in his hand. It rose and burned. Within it, a terrifying temperature suddenly took effect, causing this part of the world to become extremely hot. Fire? The Beast King was stunned and frowned. Is it the realm power again? The Beast King harumphed coldly. He had already developed a bit of hatred for the power of the realm. No matter what you do, I will not hesitate. The Beast King waved his claw. The speed of the huge strange black light increased sharply and rushed towards Wu Yan. However, Wu Yan did not even raise his head. He leaped back and dodged far away. On his palm, the white flame burned slowly and became more and more intense. The temperature within it also became more and more terrifying. It was as if a large rock had been thrown into a calm lake. Spatial ripples spread out from the center of the white flame. Under the scorching temperature, the atmosphere suddenly became violent. When the white flame burned to the size of a millstone, Wu Yan's figure finally stopped. He raised his head and looked at the Beast King in front of him. On his palm, the dense white flame suddenly transformed into a fiery glow and shot towards the strange black light that was heading towards him. The space shook violently. Pitch-black spatial cracks split open along with the white flame. It was as if ink had been spilled on a piece of paper. It drove the atmosphere of this part of the world and a fierce wind suddenly rose. Heaven and earth also became violent. The Beast King's expression changed violently. A sense of horror welled up in his heart. Within the white flame, he truly felt an extreme sense of danger. It was the same feeling that his attack had given Wu Yan. The Beast King stared fixedly at the white flame that cut through the sky, bringing with it countless turbulent air currents and spatial cracks. The Beast King's expression was extremely serious. He waved his claw and the black light that swept across the sky flew back like lightning and burrowed into the huge bone statue behind him. As the strange black light burrowed into the huge bone statue suddenly became much more solid. The terrifying aura that permeated the air also became more and more intense. A vein popped out on his forehead as the Beast King roared. Holy image technique. Full power. Screech, behind him, the bone statue raised its head to the sky and let out a sharp beastly cry. The pitch-black light expanded greatly. The vigorous black light squirmed on the bone statue for a moment. A moment later, all of it condensed into its mouth, forming a vortex that resembled a black hole. A terrifying magic fluctuation swept out from the black vortex, also stirring up the surrounding atmosphere and rolling into a whirlwind. The temperature was the exact opposite of the scorching heat brought about by the white flame. The black vortex caused the temperature of heaven and earth to continuously drop. Roar! The Beast King's expression was ferocious. With a roar, the black vortex on the bone statue suddenly shot out like a cannonball. A stream of white flame streaked across the sky. The pitch-black vortex ruthlessly met it with a resolute force. The next moment, boom, a thunderous explosion suddenly sounded, stirring up countless ripples. The airflow that the two brought along with the enormous sound waves seemed to have substance as it crazily poured down from the sky. The wild and ferocious fluctuation stirred up the dark clouds in the sky until they began to churn. Amidst the explosion, the pitch-black vortex quietly exploded. Without any sound, it turned into pitch-black flames that surged out. Together with the white flame, it was like a huge wave in the sea, crashing into each other with a loud bang. The entire sky had turned into a world of flames in an instant. White and black filled the entire sky, dividing it into two halves. In the white sea of fire, the temperature rapidly rose, while the black sea of fire crazily froze the air. The two waves of fire covered the sky at this moment, and the thick layer of dark clouds was actually evaporated into nothingness. The white and black waves of fire spread out, burning each other towards their respective masters. Wu Yan and the Beast King's expressions changed. One quickly opened up a gap to swallow the oncoming waves of fire, while the other burned with magic to form a bone shield, blocking all the aftershocks. Fortunately, it was only the aftershocks. Otherwise, the two of them knew their own attacks. This degree of resistance was not much different from not having any. In the center of the black and white sea of fire, the two colors of fire constantly collided. Under the waves of fire from both sides, ripples of energy undulated. The two sides seemed to be fighting to a standstill, each with their own territory, but not long after, a strange phenomenon suddenly occurred. A small dot of light flashed from the center of the collision between the two flames, and then rolled up. The white and black flames rushed into the dot of light at the same time, and in just a moment, they were completely swallowed by the dot of light. The sky suddenly fell silent. Kacha, a crisp and soft sound quietly rang out in the silent sky. The sound was very soft, but it still did not escape Wu Yan and the Beast King's ears. The two of them only felt their hearts tighten. They suddenly raised their heads and looked forward. Their eyes fixed on the small dot of light, and their pupils shrank. There, a small spatial crack was spreading around the dot of light. The crack was not conspicuous, but with Wu Yan and the Beast King's eyesight, they could see it clearly. The moment they saw it, their faces changed dramatically. This was because they could faintly sense a destructive force fluctuating in the dot of light. Kacha! Kacha kacha! The dot of light trembled, and as it trembled, the small spatial crack also spread wider. The faint kacha kacha sound slowly rang out, and in the end, it was almost a continuous sound. Could it be? A thought came to their minds. Wu Yan and the Beast King's hearts jumped, and they quickly retreated. The moment they retreated, the dot of light stopped. Boom! A terrifying spatial storm, accompanied by white and black flames, surged out from it. It expanded at an unimaginable speed, and engulfed the retreating Wu Yan and the Beast King. A roar, devastating the world. Chapter 843. Woo woo, the sharp sound of the wind was like the sound of a siren. In the sky, the black space storm was like a circle of shock waves, wildly flashing in all directions. The white flames and the black flames were driven by the space storm and turned into flaming meteors. They either rose up and shot into the air, or swept away and exploded in all directions. Some fell down and smashed into the ground. In the surroundings, the trees that had been standing for God knows how many years were blown away like chopsticks by the wind. Some of the trees that were hit by the two-colored flames were directly turned into ashes in an instant. This was still the best. The trees that were blown away by the spatial storm were crushed without even a sound, as if they had never existed in the first place. How terrifying! The barren mountain that originally contained the cave had been completely turned into a pile of gravel, scattered on the ground like rubbish. The intact open space was like a dry wasteland, inch by inch cracking. The water in it had already dissipated under the effect of the flames. It was likely that it would be a matter of hundreds or thousands of years before it would be restored to its original state. The two different colored flames flowed along with the spatial storm in midair, making people wonder if it would continue like this forever. Fortunately, it didn't seem to have any intention of continuing to stay in this world. Although it was still wreaking havoc, compared to the beginning, its scale was already much weaker. On the other side of the white and black sea of fire, in mid-air, a crack full of eyeballs opened up, spitting out a figure. If one looked carefully, they would find that before the figure came out, the figure stumbled for a moment, looking quite embarrassed. It seemed that, before entering the crack full of eyeballs, he was in a hurry. Standing on the side of the crack without flames and the space storm, Wuyan slightly raised his head, exposing his face to the air. He was panting slightly, his face slightly pale. After using such a powerful move like the white flames, even with the omnipotence of the realm power, he could not bear it. Although its power was terrifying, at the same time, its consumption had reached a frightening level. Wuyan could even feel that the demonic power that he had because he was in Purple's red jade mode was a little weak at the moment. He raised his gaze and looked straight at the raging dual-colored sea of fire and the spatial storm. Wuyan's purple eyes still had a trace of lingering fear. If he didn't escape in time, even if he didn't die, he would have lost a layer of skin. Wuyan did not relax just because he escaped. After all, the spatial storm was too terrifying. His white flames and the Beast King's black flames were equally powerful. Wuyan did not want to be pulled into the storm again because of a moment of relaxation. He took a few deep breaths. After calming his breathing, Wuyan narrowed his eyes and looked at the weakening spatial storm and sea of fire. How is the Beast King? Kacha, in front of him, the spatial cracks were still spreading rapidly, covering every corner of this space. The dual-colored sea of fire stirred up waves after waves, although it was gradually dimming. However, its power did not decrease by much. In this world of spatial storms and dual-colored flames, even a peak Type 9 powerhouse would not be able to return alive if they entered. Boom! Suddenly, from a corner of the area, a loud and clear sound of something crashing could be heard. It sounded like a mountain had cracked open. Wuyan's expression stiffened. A black light shot out from it, and then there was a bang sound. It blew away the surrounding spatial storm and sea of fire. The spatial storm and sea of fire that covered the sky and earth spread out in all directions at an extremely fast speed. The shocking energy of the storm and the varying temperature of the sea of fire cut many spatial cracks in the process of spreading out. As they spread out, they were mixed with fierce air waves. Once again, the entire ground was plowed. Wuyan's purple eyes stared at the place where the strange sound came from. Some sparks flew past him with sharp winds, but it did not distract him in the slightest. He just continued to watch like this. Vaguely, Wuyan saw a dense flow of demonic energy surging from that corner. A moment later, the flow of demonic energy suddenly contracted and then expanded. Then, a figure pushed by the flow of demonic energy flashed out like lightning and stood in front of him. It was the Beast King. However, his appearance had changed greatly. The beast's skin clothes on his body had become tattered, and his hair was curled up, emitting wisps of smoke. The skin on his body was slightly charred, and his face was completely covered by a pale white color. A trace of blood dripped from the corner of the Beast King's mouth, dripping onto the bone statue that had wrapped around him at some point in time. It added a bit of red to the pitch-black bones. It was obvious that the Beast King was not as capable as Wuyan, who could use the gap to escape the spatial storm and the dual-colored sea of fire. He had completely withstood the attack this time. Wuyan's eyes turned cold. His body moved, and a gap appeared and swallowed his body. When the gap appeared again, he was already behind the Beast King. Chi! At the same time the gap appeared, a sharp black light shot out from the bone statue towards Wuyan, who had just come out of the gap. Wuyan sneered. He pointed his finger, and a gap appeared in front of the black light. Bang! The sound of a collision rang out, and the dark light turned into pitch-black flames that burned the gap into nothingness. The gap had only blocked the dark light for less than a second. But that 1 second was enough. Wuyan pointed his finger again, and a beam of light shot out from the tip of his finger. Like a cannonball, it slammed into the Beast King's figure in the bone statue. Bang! When the light beam exploded, the violent impact caused the Beast King to let out a muffled groan. It could no longer stabilize its body and fell down, heavily smashing into the ruins of the ground. Pfft. The Beast King spat out a mouthful of blood. The unusual pain caused him to clutch his chest, and his mind went blank. Before he could regain his senses, a crack filled with eyeballs opened up beside him. Holy statue! Alarm bells rang in his heart, causing the Beast King's consciousness to be pulled back in advance. He let out a low roar, and the bone in the sky swayed and disappeared in an instant. When it reappeared, it had already protected the Beast King in the pitch-black bone. Bang, 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 bang. At the same time, a few black and white balls of light smashed into the bone statue, causing a cloud of dust to rise. But the Beast King was not harmed. Wu Yan's face did not show the slightest bit of surprise. He closed his eyes, and his palm gently reached forward. His body flashed forward, and he appeared in front of the bone statue. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. His palm gently pressed against the pitch-black body of the bone statue. The Beast King's pupils slowly shrank to the size of a needle. In the next second, a voice slowly rang out, the realm of being and non-being. As the voice fell, a strange wave of energy rose from the area where Wu Yan's palm and the bone statue's body touched, and it took effect on the bone statue. Clang! A strange sound was emitted along with the energy wave. It reverberated like a ripple. The entire pitch-black bone statue actually began to erode in the ripple. Its color gradually dimmed. Traces of cracks spread out from the pitch-black bones. In a short while, they covered the entire bone statue. Bang! Like a porcelain bowl, the bone statue directly shattered into pieces that filled the sky. Looking at the fragments that filled his vision, the Beast King's heart trembled violently, as if it was a reef that had been hit by a huge wave. Then, a fierce look flashed across the Beast King's eyes, and he activated the little bit of demonic power left in his body. However, before he could react, a figure appeared in front of him in a ghost-like manner. The hand that had just been on the bone statue was gently placed on the Beast King's thick shoulder. A cold murmur slowly rang out, causing the Beast King's body to stiffen. It's over. In his heart, a fatal sense of danger surged up along with a familiar energy. The realm of heaven and earth. The voice that fell into the Beast King's ears was no less than a death sentence, and it became the declaration of the end of this battle. Boom! The sky shattered, the earth cracked. Chapter 844. Boom! An earth-shattering roar echoed throughout the behemoth forest, even reaching the campsite outside the behemoth forest. In the campsite, all the patrols in the middle of the night were shocked by the loud noise. They reflexively raised their heads and looked towards the source of the sound. They were completely dumbfounded. Not to mention them, even the guards who were startled awake by the noise and walked out of their tents to check the situation were also stunned on the spot. They all looked into the distance in a daze, disbelief, and shock. Countless emotions surfaced on their faces and eyes. What did they see? It was like the end of the world. Was this a dream? Countless people who were awake, those who were unconscious, those who were just sleeping, and those who were patrolling at night, all had the same thought at almost the same time. Their faces were filled with absent-mindedness. In their field of vision, the sky was still slowly shattering. They could also feel the ground trembling slightly. It was obvious that not only the sky, but the ground in that area was also suffering from a destructive attack. Heaven and earth were in that area. It had long become a luxury, not a single bit was left. Without a doubt, if this phenomenon continued, then sooner or later, the campsite would also be included. The guards in the campsite were all at a loss as to what to do. Some of them were desperately shouting, while others ran towards the direction of the higher-ups, seeking instructions. Some of the more timid guards even began to escape from the campsite. In an instant, the entire campsite was in chaos. Don't panic. Don't panic. In the center of the campsite, Pelosi shouted at the top of his lungs. Even he was inexplicably frightened. But it was not to the extent of causing a commotion because of an unknown phenomenon. He suppressed the shock in his heart. Pelosi raised his hands. He shouted loudly, "Everyone, gather here for me. Wait for orders. Hearing Pelosi's words, the guards recovered from the sudden situation that caused them to be at a loss. Although the clamor was still there, it was not as chaotic as before. However, the operation was no longer as chaotic as it had been at the beginning. People continued to gather in the open space in the central area, waiting for the higher-ups to make arrangements. Seeing this, Pelosi heaved a sigh of relief. He raised his head and glanced at the shattered world, then glanced at the void hanging in the sky. A drop of cold sweat dripped down his forehead, and his entire back was drenched. His heart was wrapped in a chill, and Pelosi couldn't help but shiver. What the hell is going on here? Pelosi could not understand. Pelosi bitterly shook his head. He felt that ever since Wu Yan and the others came to the campsite, the daily here had disappeared. Many things were out of his control and beyond of his ability. This made Pelosi felt for the first time. He felt that he, as a peak of the 8th rank, was not all that. What Pelosi did not know was that in the battle that caused the sky to shatter, he, as a peak of the 8th rank, was nothing. Clenching his slightly pale hands, Pelosi once again took a deep look at the sky. After which, he walked towards the Thunder King's tent. Pelosi was destined to end up empty-handed as the Thunder King was no longer in the tent. The shattered sky attracted the attention of the people in the campsite. It did not escape the eyes of Chuju, Mikoto, Shokuhu Misaki, Kotori, and the others. The girls came out of their tents and looked at the scene of the apocalypse. Even they were shocked. Too scary. Looking at the black hole hanging in the sky, Hinajaku couldn't help but mutter. The sky shattered? Isn't that terrifying? What the hell is going on? The fearless Mikoto shrunk her neck in fear. Did something happen in the giant beast's forest that gave us a headache? Shokuhu Misaki narrowed her eyes and exchanged glances with Kotori. Both of them seemed to be deep in thought, causing the girls around them to be confused. From the looks of it, you two seem to know something. Kurumi stood on her toes and tilted her head. Not really. Shokuhu Misaki sighed. I just have a feeling that it's not a natural phenomenon. Mikoto rolled her eyes and retorted. Isn't that the same as not saying anything? What kind of natural phenomenon could cause something like this? No, that's not what Shokuhu meant. Kotori replied on behalf of Shokuhu Misaki. She meant that the sky shattered because of someone's actions. Huh? Hinajaku and Mikoto looked at each other with an amused expression. Are you trying to say that the shattering of the sky was caused by someone? I'm afraid. Shokuhu Misaki lowered her head. I think so. Kotori said with uncertainty. Hey, are you two joking? Kinohata Sai was the first to react. Is there really someone who can shatter the sky? I think so too. Mikoto furrowed her brows. I don't believe anyone can do that, even if it's a demigod, unless. Chuju laughed bitterly. Unless it's a celestial. But celestials don't exist anymore, right? Frenda hit the bullseye. That's the same as not saying anything. The girls laughed bitterly. Indeed, they have been discussing this for so long and there's no way they can come up with anything. Unless they go there and take a look. The girls raised their heads and looked at the sky that was still filled with debris. The thought was extinguished in less than a millisecond. Kotori suddenly noticed something. Ikaros, who was standing behind everyone, was looking at Wu Yan with her indigo eyes. In her eyes, a data box was floating back and forth. It was very unstable. What's wrong? Ikaros didn't turn around. She was still looking at the sky, but the answer that came out of her mouth shocked the girls. Master is there, what did you say? The girls were shocked. Mikoto screamed. You said that guy is there? Ikaros. Shokuhu Misaki's expression turned serious. Can you sense Xiaoyan's presence? Ikaros shook her head. I don't know, but I know that Master is there. The girls looked at each other in confusion, but they didn't doubt her words. They knew Ikaros wouldn't lie, especially when it comes to Wu Yan. I'm afraid Ikaros is right. Kotori gritted her teeth, her red eyes flashed with panic. There's no way Oni-san didn't notice such a huge change, but he still hasn't shown up. The only explanation is that he's there. Master. Master is really there. Astria's hands moved. Toka asked in a panic. Shido is fine, right? No way. Shokuhu Misaki denied it. If something happened to him, we would be dead already. Let's go. Mikoto said. Let's go take a look. The girls nodded without hesitation. They forgot that they didn't want to go take a look. It was at this moment that a cool breeze blew over from afar, heading toward where the girls were. By the time the breeze dissipated, the Thunder King, who was carrying Marcus with one hand, appeared from within. Great! You're all here. Without waiting for the girls to speak, the Thunder King took the initiative to shout. Quick! Come with me to support the little guy. Lei Wang confirmed Wu Yan's whereabouts. The girls nodded and followed Lei Wang. They rushed towards the shattered sky in the behemoth forest. Chapter 845. The shattered sky isn't just shocking to look at. Only those who are in this world would know that there is a terrifying power comparable to a spatial storm here. Just as the people in the campsite had imagined, if the sky continued to shatter, by the time it reached the campsite would have no choice but to disappear. Unfortunately, the master who shattered this world doesn't have that much power. At a certain moment, the speed of the shattering of the sky started to slow down. Although it's not easy to notice, it is indeed gradually stopping until it completely stops. Under the empty black hole, the rain-like fragments from the shattered sky also slowly disappeared. The terrifying power contained in them gradually dissipated, and together with the things in the sky, they were crushed into nothingness. Then, the sky returned to normal. At a speed visible to the naked eye, the empty black hole was covered by a dark cloud and retracted, returning the curtain of night to the spalier world. After an unknown amount of time, when the empty black hole completely disappeared, the strange changes in the sky returned to normal. It was still silent, only a little bit of starlight and moonlight were showing their existence. Everything seemed like nothing happened. Of course, if someone came to this world, they wouldn't think so. Not only did the sky shatter, the ground also disappeared. A huge crater with a diameter of more than a kilometer stood in this corner. It's as if the entire behemoth forest was dug out alive. Not to mention the magical beasts and creatures that were living here a moment ago. Even the trees are gone. Only in that huge crater, several hundred meters deep, there are still two breaths. Looking up, Wu Yan bitterly smiled as he looked at the sky that returned to normal and the pitch-black crater that filled his field of vision. Her pale complexion made her look exceptionally sorrowful. His long golden hair fluttered without wind, gently fluttering, caressing his black robe. His purple eyes were filled with endless exhaustion, his chest was violently rising and falling. His rough breaths turned into hot breaths in this world that has returned to normal, showing his master's current state. He sensed the little Yao energy left in his body. The bitter smile on Wu Yan's face also turned into helplessness. Before he used the realm of heaven and earth, he had never thought of playing with such power, but in the end, he almost collapsed from playing with it. With infinite arms refinement, even if it's an unfamiliar power, he can perfectly control it. The same goes for his realm power. Under these circumstances, in Yukari's red jade mode, Wu Yan can be considered a Yakumo Yukari. At least, that's what Wu Yan thinks. But that wasn't the case. Being able to perfectly control one's abilities did not mean that one would be able to fight perfectly. No matter what, Wu Yan himself was only a little fellow at the peak of the 8th step. Even though he had grasped the power of a demigod, he was still unable to adapt to it. As a result, even though there were no problems during the battle, Wu Yan did not fully understand what kind of power the realm of heaven and earth possessed. In a situation where he didn't understand the power of the skill, in order to guarantee that he could defeat the Beast King, Wu Yan had no choice but to go all out. In the end, it led to the current situation. He took a deep breath. Wu Yan lowered his head and looked at his feet. The Beast King was lying there. Only the last bit of clothing was left on his body. Everything else had been reduced to ashes. His skin had already rotted away. Strands of blood sprayed out from his body as if they were free of charge, dyeing him into a blood-soaked man. Not much muscle was left on his face, and all the blood in his body was boiling due to the pressure and the friction with the atmosphere. The right side of his body was almost unrecognizable, and not a single bone was intact, other than that. One of his arms and two of his thighs disappeared from his body. There was not a single part of his body left untouched. Even so, the Beast King's chest was still rising and falling at an almost imperceptible rate, proving that he was still alive, after withstanding the impact of the spatial storm and the dual flame sea, and withstanding the realm of heaven and earth. The Beast King was still alive. One had to admit that demonic beasts' vitality was very strong, and even though it couldn't compare to the true ancestors of vampires, it was still much stronger than humans. This was especially true for the Beast King, who stood at the peak of demonic beasts. His vitality was already stronger than the average immortal vampire. However, his powerful vitality combined with his appearance made it seem like he was struggling at death's door. Looking at the Beast King lying at his feet and vomiting blood, Wu Yan couldn't help but sigh. Before this, Wu Yan had always held a grudge against the Beast King who forced him and the girls around him into a desperate situation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have chosen to use the bloodline ability with a time limit to fight the Beast King. But now, seeing the Beast King in such a state, Wu Yan didn't know why, but for some reason, he couldn't bring himself to hate the Beast King anymore. Was it because he had already taken his revenge? Or was it because he didn't bring it with him when he was born, and he didn't bring it with him when he died? His long golden hair flowed in circles, making him look very elegant. His purple eyes looked at the twitching Beast King at his feet, and Wu Yan closed his eyes. This way, we don't owe each other anything. Perhaps because he heard Wu Yan's voice, the Beast King dragged his broken body and raised his head with great difficulty. A pair of unfocused eyes stared at Wu Yan's face, and he suddenly laughed out loud. Ha, ha ha, ha 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 ha. Blood clots flowed out from his throat, and boiling blood flowed from the wounds all over his body. His face, which didn't have much muscle left, twitched, probably because of the pain. Even so, the Beast King couldn't stop laughing, and he couldn't stop laughing. His laughter was unexpectedly sad and crazy. Wu Yan quietly looked at him, not saying a word. His purple eyes were as calm as an ancient well, and when the Beast King saw this, he couldn't suppress the anger in his heart. This again, this again, this again. The words that were filled with resentment were forcefully squeezed out of the Beast King's mouth along with fresh blood as it roared out. Yakumo, this face. You too, this face. The Beast King's body trembled more and more, and he used all his strength to shout out a complete sentence. Don't act like you're the victor in front of me. I'm not dead yet. Hearing this, Wu Yan looked at the Beast King's eyes, and coldly said, but you've already lost. I merely borrowed that woman's strength. The Beast King squeezed out his resentful voice intermittently as if he had reached his limit. His body was no longer trembling as he laid there, but his chest was rising and falling more and more violently. Wu Yan was silent, and then he bitterly laughed. Raising his hands, Wu Yan looked up, and whispered, You're right, I just borrowed Yukari's power. It's not a true victory. The Beast King didn't say anything, he just looked at Wu Yan with cold eyes. Wu Yan, who was immersed in his memories, in his mind, the first time he came to the Spalier world, the first time he entered a dungeon, the first time he summoned a character, the first time he met the girls, and the memories of his adventures with the girls kept replaying. As the memories replayed, Wu Yan gradually lost his mind. Whether it's now or in the past, I've always borrowed the power of the people around me. Without them, I would have died. The Beast King suddenly clenched his hands, and his absent-minded face suddenly became firm, startling the Beast King who was staring at Wu Yan. I know, I've always been weak, because I can't leave them. Looking up, Wu Yan's eyes flashed with an indescribable light. That's an expression the Beast King would never understand. That's why I need to keep getting stronger, until one day, it's my turn to lend my power to them. I'll keep getting stronger. Wu Yan glanced down at the Beast King who was still in a daze. Beast King, you're really strong. In this world, there are only 5 people who can compare to you, and I, one day, will climb to the top. But, by that time, you won't be able to see it." Opening his eyes slightly, Wu Yan raised his hand. A trace of power was gathering on it. "I hope we won't be enemies in the next life." Saying that, Wu Yan's hand fell on the Beast King's chest. Chapter 846. Just as Wu Yan's attack was about to land on the Beast King's chest and deliver the final blow, the Beast King, who was lying on the ground, suddenly opened its eyes. Bang! With a muffled sound, strands of demonic energy emerged from the Beast King's body. Immediately after, the soil on the ground where the Beast King was lying suddenly rippled and surged up like a tidal wave, completely covering the Beast King's battered body within. This scene was exactly the same as when the Beast King had escaped from Purple's clutches. The sudden change startled Wu Yan and his eyes turned icy cold. Trying to escape? It's not that easy. His palm, which had been gathering power and was about to land on the Beast King's chest, suddenly flashed with the power of his realm. Mobilizing what little demonic energy he had left, Wu Yan slammed his palm on the soil that covered the Beast King. The realm of being and non-being. With the power of his realm activated, Wu Yan's palm slammed down like a 1,000-pound hammer, completely wiping out the soil in front of him. Then, with a loud boom, a figure shot out from the soil and stopped in mid-air for 1,000th of a second. Then, it turned into an afterimage and shot into the distance. Looking at the afterimage that shot into the sky, Wu Yan's face was full of ridicule. With a move of his feet, a crack filled with eyeballs appeared with a tearing sound. The power of the spatial gap was all-pervasive. After entering the spatial gap, Wu Yan could freely choose to open the spatial gap at any place and achieve the effect of teleportation. The Beast King's escape was of no use at all. As this thought flashed through his mind, Wu Yan was just about to enter the spatial gap and chase after the Beast King. However, before he could enter, the spatial gap under his feet trembled and closed on its own, disappearing without a trace. Wu Yan was stunned and his face was full of astonishment. He had yet to react to what was going on. It was engraved on the 3 Magatama engravings on his chest. The third Magatama engravings, which had been maintaining a faint glow, suddenly dimmed and returned to its tranquil state. Almost at the same time, Wu Yan's long golden hair began to shrink at a speed visible to the naked eye. Her golden hair was still fading on one side. By the time he had retracted his short hair, the golden color returned to Wu Yan's original black, and his purple eyes returned to their wine-red color. The duration of the red jade mode had passed. His strength as a demigod fell rapidly, only stopping when he reached the pinnacle of the 8th rank. Feeling the return of his familiar body, Wu Yan did not have the slightest joy. Instead, he secretly cursed. Of all times, he just had to come at such a crucial time. Seeing that the Beast King was about to escape from his line of sight, Wu Yan didn't have much time to think. He roused the undamaged mana in his body and used spatial teleportation to appear on the horizon. However, there was still a considerable distance between him and the Beast King, who was flying away at an extremely fast speed. Although the spatial manipulation magic was miraculous, it was still somewhat lacking compared to the elusive spatial rift. If Wu Yan's strength was still at the demigod rank, it wouldn't be impossible for him to win against the spatial rift. However, the current Wu Yan was only at the peak of the 8th rank. Naturally, the spatial rift did not have such a powerful effect. Although he felt helpless about this fact, Wu Yan still roused his mana and continued to teleport in the direction of the Beast King. No matter what, even if he didn't have the powerful movement range of the spatial rift, with teleportation and flight, it was only a matter of time before he caught up. Looking at that broken figure, Wu Yan's eyes flashed with a cold light. You can't escape. In the sky above the behemoth forest, a streak of light flashed past like a bolt of lightning. In the blink of an eye, it rushed into a continuous mountain range in the behemoth forest. Pushing his speed to the limit, the Beast King also increased his speed to a rather terrifying level. As his figure flashed, his expression was incomparably gloomy. Although he was heavily injured, with the Beast King's strength, how could he not have noticed Wu Yan's pursuit? His heart filled with hatred, the Beast King suddenly felt a sense of danger. At the same time, he also noticed Wu Yan's current rank. His figure paused, but he quickly flew away again. His rank has dropped to the peak of the 8th rank. It seems that the power Yakumo Yuzi lent him has been used up. The Beast King's mind spun rapidly, but his speed did not decrease at all. Like a meteor streaking across the sky, he disappeared into the horizon. In my current state, I should be able to win against him at the peak of the 8th rank. But that fellow's methods are very clever. If he dares to chase after me, he must have some kind of trump card. It's best not to take the risk. Just as the Beast King was muttering to himself, a strange whistling sound suddenly came from not too far away, causing the Beast King's body to come to a sudden stop. Looking up, his eyes narrowed slightly as he fixed his gaze not too far away. There, a black-robed Wu Yan was floating in the air, his wine-red eyes looking at the Beast King with a hint of mockery in them. This despicable brat, what a terrifying speed. The Beast King sucked in a breath of cold air. After a moment of hesitation, his broken body shook violently and turned into a streak of light, flying wildly in another direction. Wu Yan frowned. He took a step forward, and when he was about to teleport again, the space around him started distorting and a bone sword materialized out of thin air. Seeing this, Wu Yan's body stopped moving. Bright lightning immediately crackled and surged out of his body. As the lightning surged out of his body, the clouds in the sky gradually darkened. Then, he stretched out his hand and grabbed forward. Lightning flashed, and a long spear condensed from lightning appeared with a sizzling sound. Almost in an instant, a wave of energy swept out from the front. The bone sword that appeared out of thin air brought with it a whistling sound as it violently pierced towards Wu Yan. It's not a fight, but a hindrance? Seeing that the demonic energy on the bone sword was not very strong, Wu Yan immediately understood the Beast King's plan. The lightning spear in his hand carried an unparalleled amount of blue and white electricity, crackling non-stop. Then, Wu Yan threw it out fiercely. Ding! The crisp sound of collision resounded throughout the entire sky. Hearing this sound, the Beast King's body rushed out like a ray of light. He didn't even know how far behind he was, he didn't even turn his head as he fled with all his might. I never thought that there would be a time when I would be chased by a peak level 8 ant. Gritting his teeth, the Beast King's face became a little ferocious. Because of the change in his expression, the Beast King's face started to bleed, but he didn't notice. The killing intent and hatred in his heart had long surpassed the pain. But the Beast King didn't slow down in the slightest. His body streaked across the sky, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the forest. This desperate escape continued for more than 10 minutes. Finally, the Beast King's speed started to slow down. The demonic energy supporting his rapid flight was already showing signs of exhaustion. At this moment, the Beast King's broken face was incomparably pale. The blood in his body flowed even faster. One of his severed arms and 2 of his thighs were dripping down like water. If the Beast King wasn't a magical beast and a human was in his place, even if he wasn't killed by Wu Yan, he would have died from excessive blood loss. The Beast King gritted his teeth and continued to fly forward. He had already seen Wu Yan's speed just now. It was extremely terrifying. If he stopped, it wouldn't take long for him to catch up to him. This thought flashed through his mind. Just as the Beast King was about to continue flying, a voice that he hated to the bone and that made his heart tremble with fear rang out behind him. I said, you can't escape. The Beast King trembled all over and subconsciously turned his head. A moment later, in a space not far behind him, Wu Yan's figure appeared. Seeing this scene, the Beast King's pupils shrank. That's teleportation? The Beast King finally understood how the other party was able to catch up to him with just the strength of a peak level 8. Gritting his teeth, the Beast King fiercely swung his only remaining arm. Immediately after, 4 bone spears that shone with a cold light appeared around his body. Under the control of the Beast King, they shot towards the figure behind him. As for the Beast King himself, the moment the bone spears shot out, he turned around and hurriedly fled again. You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.